WIBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bengals and the Bills are the two best teams in the AFC, and they face off Sunday Night Football. Who should be the favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Cincinnati. I think the Bengals, they're back. I mean, the Bengals kind of own the Bills. I feel like it's a bad matchup for the Bills. I think that the Bengals probably win this one fairly easily.
Mike Danger.
I give them a chance against Cincinnati, and I think they could beat Cincinnati.
Gene Battaglia.
This is the team, for whatever reason, we can't get past here.
Linval Joseph. Break down the matchup tonight, Titans and Steelers.
He struck him out looking. It's over. It's over. The Rangers have won the World Series.
World Series champions.
That's what's in.
Texas also set a new record going 11-0 on the road in the postseason. Corey Seager, your MVP.
So now there are 5 current teams without a world title.
Brandon Biro, welcome back. 2 goals on the night.
Syracuse coming away with a 7-2 win over the Amherst.
Well, there was only one Bobby Knight. He should be remembered for the great coaching he did. One of the greatest ever of all time.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You know, I kind of had that similar thought that McLovin had just there, that Andrew Perloff had just there for Maggie and Perloff here, mornings on The Fan. Welcome into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. The day after Bobby Knight, we find out that Bobby Knight passes away, and all I could think to myself is, you know, the guy will go down and will forever be known as one of the best college basketball coaches of all time. But I don't know that we spend as much time talking about that as we do talking about the persona and the antics and everything that went into making Bobby Knight who it is. And to me, that's a shame. It's a shame that that is what I remember him as and for, more than the wins and the championships and the men that he helped mold and shape.
He got fired by Indiana.
Yeah,
he didn't. Yeah, so like that's part of the legacy. It's complicated. It really is, and I think maybe he mellowed out at the end though when he became a commentator and just kind of slowed down a little bit. So
yeah, I just man, it's one of those things that kind of feels like part of your childhood is gone, right? Like I just remember being a kid and recognizing him as a great college basketball coach. But more than anything, hearing about the antics more than the wins, more than the development of young men in the sport, and you know, guys that have gone on to great success in their life, I'm sure, because they were touched at some point by the coaching of Bobby Knight. And I want to remember him for being a great coach, but I remember him for being kind of an a-hole.
Yeah,
I hate that, but I think that's the sad truth about the Bobby Knight legacy.
Yeah, if he said today what he said offhand to Connie Chung, that's it. You're done. You're never getting another opportunity. So
there's too many things to list.
Too many. He punched a cop down in Puerto Rico. Like
choking a player is probably not going to fly.
He brought out a player to the podium, one of his athletes who was black, in like a horse collar and was whipping him.
The bullwhip.
Yeah.
All of the things that we're talking about now. Again, this is why I want to remember him as this great coach, but all I remember is this guy's antics were so out of control that really, unfortunately for me, his legacy is more about his antics than it is about his wins.
So bring this closer to home. How are we going to look back at Jim Boeheim someday? I don't mean to anybody who's offended by that. I mean, are we going, and they're going to honor him February 24th. They're going to have him out there. Are we going to be appreciative, or are we just too close to it where you recognize that at the end?
I think that any warts on Boeheim's resume didn't get the kind of attention that Bobby Knight got, because Bobby Knight was one of a kind. In the age of Boeheim, when you had any scandals that you had, whether you're talking about Bernie Fine or you're talking about Fat Mello or any of those, like, they kind of got swept under the rug because there were a lot of those kind of scandals happening in the world of college athletics everywhere you looked, in every direction. So it's just like, oh, it's just another scandal. It's just another vacating of wins. That feels like that happens often. But when Bobby Knight was doing what he was doing, I mean, that was It was a national story because it was so over the top and so egregious. Now, if you look back at it, it's like, whew. So how will we look at Boeheim? I think we'll all remember, just like we want to remember Bobby Knight for the championships and the Final Four appearances. And I think that will be a part of the Boeheim legacy. You can't take away 2004, right? You can't take away the title. You can't take away all of those Final Four appearances. And some of those Final Four appearances where you were watching a team that had no business being in the Final Four, but you could just tell Boeheim was coaching his ass off.
I think that maybe it's going to be the same arc because when Bobby Knight left Indiana and they made the Final Four 1 year in the 2000s, but they're not a national program anymore. They were the program right up there with your North Carolina and anybody else, your UCLA, back when in the 70s and the 80s. Remember Keith Smart. And now they're just another team in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, they are.
Yeah.
So is that where Syracuse is going to be someday? I mean,
isn't that where they are right now?
That's where they're headed.
That's where it's trending. Yeah. It's been trending in that direction for a while. When was the last Final Four? It wasn't 16, that long ago.
16, I want to say.
Okay, so you're talking 7 years ago, and really since then, nothing really of note that would look that impressive.
But even
on a
their last two runs, Danger, like you mentioned, that were like we're a 10 seed. Look at us, we're here, and they got clobbered by North Carolina. Forgive me for not knowing which year that was off the top of my head.
No, I get it. But I think with Boeheim, it'll be similar, but not as. I think we'll remember I will remember the talking down to the student reporters, and I will remember the scandals, and I will remember that the manslaughter, the accident, and then him coaching that weekend with Duke coming into the Dome. And
there was no charges with anything.
I'm sorry. Yes, you know what I'm saying. You remember the incident that I'm talking about. So I think that and again, like I'll remember that they're like, what happened? What was the ramification from that incident? Was there anything? There really wasn't. He was coaching just a couple days later. Like, wow. Pretty amazing. So that will be a lot of what I remember, but I will also remember like some really amazing runs where you can't deny that dude was coaching his ass off. And Bobby Knight will always have those scars, like all of the things that we were just talking about, but then nobody wants to talk about. I mean, I'm sure you could line up his former players, and to a man, most of them, the majority of them would say, yeah, he was tough. Yeah, he was an a-hole. And you know what? I'm better because I learned from Bobby Knight.
That style of coaching is dead. It is. And he might have been the best at it, just the hard nose, I don't care, I'm not your friend. By the way, I'm good. 2016 was last year. The Orange made the Final Four, which you think, that was just yesterday. No.
A while ago.
No. I think if it's like 7 years ago, we can kind of question things.
Yeah. We've got a great show lined up for you, and we appreciate you stopping by the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader at 95.7 FM and AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can watch the Sports Bar. Our video stream is up at the Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch. Don't forget to like and subscribe there. We're helping. You're helping us grow our community there on YouTube and Twitch, and we sound great on your smart speaker as well when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Here's what's on tap in the Sports Bar, and it's brought to you by our friends at Three Heads Brewing. On tap at Three Heads, cranberry grape sour ale, Tate cranberries, tart cranberries, New York State grapes coming together to make a delicious treat. Get yours at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today.
So the Bills made a signing today, and you forgot this guy was on the street. Linval Joseph, defensive tackle. We'll talk about this throughout the show and get the opinion of our guest in the 4 o'clock hour, Thad Brown from News 8, who certainly covers the Buffalo Bills on a weekly basis. We'll talk to Thad some Buffalo Bills football in the 4 o'clock hour. Coming up here shortly, Danger, we have Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy. As this is an interesting week, right? It's the week of who's playing quarterback and how does this impact my team?
Yeah.
And we'll go over all these situations, which ones where you think it's a bump up for your guys or which ones you want to avoid. This is a week where you got to figure out who are you playing. I think that, there's certain weeks where, I had this guy on the bench. I didn't see this coming. That's why you want to listen to Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, coming up.
He'll join us here at 3:25. Our usual fare coming up as well this afternoon. We've got a round of shots on the way after happy hour, 5 o'clock. We'll take your calls throughout the course of the afternoon on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool and join us. We've got a Sabres win to discuss. We've got an Emmerich's loss to discuss. We've got a World Series champion to discuss, Gino.
We do.
The Rangers get it done last night. The baseball season concludes with the Texas Rangers winning their first ever World Series. But let's start with the Buffalo Bills and their signing of a new defensive tackle in Linval Joseph. We also saw Rasul Douglas on the practice field for the first time today. Head coach Sean McDermott on the two new additions to his roster.
Yeah, veteran, experienced player that's, from the reports we've gotten, high character, leader. He's played a lot of football and certainly a big man, and the line of scrimmage is important.
Is there a possibility that as you assess him that he could even play on Sunday? And ditto for Rasul. I mean, is it within the realm of possibility?
It is. We have to see how it goes today. Take it one day at a time and see where it goes. Yeah.
All right. So Linval Joseph, 35 years old now. Last saw him last season, starting 8 games for the Eagles. He signed with the Eagles right around the same time that he signed with the Bills this year. Right last year, this time November last year, he was signing with the Eagles and was on the team on the field for 38% of the snaps in the games that he played. So
in 8 games, 5 sacks. Now, that Philadelphia defense was a monster last year, but he was also involved in one big play there in the NFC Championship game. Hassan Reddick coming around, making the sack. That knocks Brock Purdy out of the game, but it's actually, with the recovery, is Linval Joseph. Linval Joseph is that big, wide body the Buffalo Bills were missing on this defense. And sure, you have Jordan Phillips, and yes, you have Tim Settle. They are not at the level of Daquan Jones. Now, Daquan Jones, you're holding out hope that maybe he can be back, sort of, but you can't really bank on it. But first things first, you still have half the season to play here. So this is using pretty much every dollar you have remaining against the salary cap to bring in a Linval Joseph. At age 35, Danger, I think this is smart money here. Just the 1 year. It's not even 1 year. It's 8 games, basically, you're bringing him in for.
Yeah, I really want to see if Joseph can do what you haven't been able to see Settle or Phillips do at One Tech, and see if he can anchor against some of these double teams in the run game. And if he can free up, eat up some of those bodies, then I think that's money well spent, and he's doing something that you don't currently have or that you haven't had since Jones got injured in that Jacksonville game. So that's the Joseph signing. I also think it's encouraging to hear that you could see Joseph, you could see Douglas as soon as this Sunday. I don't know that you'll see them a ton, but depending on how it goes for them here, the course of the rest of the week, maybe we do see them on the field a little bit here coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, so Rasul Douglas, peek behind the curtain. Can I take a little sidebar? So each day we kind of keep notes. We have a shared program, Danger and I, and sometimes I don't get to commute. Danger and I running like mile a minute, 2 different directions.
Today is one of those days where I'm Mach 10, head on fire, and
I realized that 2 seconds talking to him, like, okay, I'm out of here. But you just don't. People think you just show up and we're going to talk sports. No, we're writing, we're sharing notes and ideas, and we share this program. And sometimes very rarely, but I just like to trip Danger up and see if I can get him to be a Ron Burgundy and put something in the shared notes. So darn close. In tomorrow's guest, I put it in there. You didn't bite.
No.
I wanted you to say, bleep you, San Diego. I wanted you just to kind of read it. Tomorrow, Bart Winkler will be joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. He certainly here on CBS Radio. Maybe you'll hear him tonight. He's got a Milwaukee background, so I think he's perfect to talk about Rasul Douglas and certainly all these other stories around the NFL.
Yeah, I love having Bart on with us, and that'll be a great guest tomorrow afternoon to get your sports weekend started. Yeah, when I glanced over, I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, Gino, that's not who's joining us tomorrow. You could get out of here with that. I mean, I might be distracted, but I'm not that distracted, pal.
If you said that, I was going to reach over that. We have the delay. That's the case of emergency button here.
We should also mention Bills-related news here that with the signing of Joseph, the Bills did what we thought they would do yesterday, which is place cornerback Kyer Elam on IR. He'll miss at least the next 4 games. Sean McDermott on Kyer Elam.
Well, I mean, he's got the ankle going on, and beyond that, there's nothing you can do, and we'll assess it when his ankle's better and see where it takes us.
Surgery need for that? Is that just kind of recovery?
Yeah, I don't know the kind of the polish on that at this point. The latest information.
When did you suffer that injury? The ankle.
And I think going back, I think it happened several weeks ago, and so it's just been kind of an ongoing thing here for several weeks.
Yeah, it has been an ongoing thing.
All right, so...
Where was it on the injury report?
Yeah, where was it there, Sean? That would be the follow-up question. How come we didn't know about this? If you say, who cares? We live in a society where people bet money on these things. So you have to be transparent about everything. So if there's an injury or... hey, you know what? We could really use the roster spot. Your ankle hurts. It feels fine, Coach. Your ankle hurts.
Yeah. When did you suffer it? I don't really have the polish on that. That's a pretty good one.
Well, I mean, he's got the ankle going on, and beyond that, there's nothing you can do, and we'll assess it when his ankle's better and see where it takes us.
Surgery need for that? Is that just kind of recovery?
Yeah, I don't know the kind of the polish on that at this point. The latest information.
When did you suffer that injury? Yeah.
And I think, going back, I think it happened several weeks ago. And so it's just been kind of an ongoing thing here for several weeks.
You had a great one-liner yesterday on this. Like, we were discussing, wait a second, when could this have happened? Like, was it the Tampa Bay game? You're like, going down the stairs, walking down the stairs.
Yeah, he slid down the tunnel, rolled his ankle, stepping into the locker room without a jersey on. I don't know what had happened, but yeah, there you go, Kyer Elam.
There was some water on the floor, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kyer Elam missing at least the next 4 games. Okay.
I'm fine with this also.
Of course.
We should all be fine because, trade Kyer for what? For a pick swap? What is that going to do?
I'm going to continue to secretly believe that Kyer Elam is a part of this team's plan long term, that next year at this time, Kyer Elam isn't going to be part of our conversation because he's just going to be doing his job playing corner, and he's not going to be an issue.
I also think too that we just have to realize maybe he isn't the guy, and Brandon Beane, rather than cut him, what would that do? Or rather than pick swap 7 for a 6, what would that do? Nothing. Let Brandon Beane save some face. Maybe give him another year here. Let Brandon Beane, because it's embarrassing for a GM.
They're managing through this Kyer Elam situation. Whatever it is, it might not even be his game. It just might be the player. It might be his attitude. It might be his thoughts on Buffalo, his feelings on Buffalo. By the way, Leonard Fournette with the harsh reality sending out a tweet earlier today. What did he say? Buffalo is colder than... I don't know that I can repeat what he said.
Yeah, he said Buffalo colder than a penguin's ass.
That's what it is.
Like, okay, that's graphic, yeah. Accurate.
Fully accurate. Welcome to Western New York, Leonard Fournette.
Oh, by the way, it's going to get much, much worse.
Yeah. I got heat from somebody as I was leaving the West Side Country Club today because I was wearing shorts and a T-shirt on my way out the club. He's like, I was going to give you a hard time, but it's not that bad out here. I'm like, yeah, it's not that bad out here when you consider it's November 2nd and we all know what's coming. This is fine. I'll deal with what we have today. The sun might peek out every now and then and the temperature it's cold, but it's not that cold yet.
Tomorrow I got to go with the jacket. 8-man football championship tomorrow night, Danger. So I got to go with the jacket. We're going to do that game tomorrow night.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, you're one that always likes to hold out as long as possible. Used to be, shorts until it snows guy. Well, sorry, it's snowed.
That's over. It's snowed.
over, yeah.
Yeah. I still wear shorts on the dad run, though. I don't care if it's snowing or not. I'm wearing shorts on the dad run. I did that yesterday. That felt like 1,000 little needles hitting you in the face when it was sleeting. Now, that wasn't really sleet. It wasn't really snow. It was more of that sneet. You know what I'm saying? That snow-sleet combination. Anyways, yes, Leonard Fournette learning quickly what we all know, like winter in Western New York. It's not for everybody. So there's the latest from the Buffalo Bills, and you mentioned it. Thad Brown from News 8 Sports will be joining us next hour, and we'll get his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills trade deadline moves here as they prepare for a Week 9 matchup on Sunday night against the Cincinnati Bengals.
The Bills, a little breaking news here, Dan.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Not that you had to worry about Josh Allen. He was a full participant today with a shoulder. DeMar Hamlin was back at practice. He missed yesterday because of an illness. Quentin Morris listed as full, not practicing today. Balin Spector and A.J. Klein.
A.J. Klein practiced?
No, did not
practice. No. Okay. There's your Buffalo Bills injury report. Love that. Week 9 gets underway tonight with the Steelers hosting the Titans, and this will be the first primetime start for Tennessee rookie quarterback Will Levis. Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett will be on the field as well. He's dealing with a rib injury. He's just gotten the crap beat out of him this season. The guy has just been abused in that Steelers backfield, yet he's out there starting tonight. So let's talk about Week 9. Let's talk some fantasy football. Let's set your lineups. Andy Behrens here to help you from Yahoo Fantasy Sports. He is our guest next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.
Bills making a signing today, adding depth to the defensive line. Linval Joseph coming to Buffalo, 35 years old. He was last with Philadelphia. The deal pretty much takes up the rest of the cap space the Bills may have had. 1 year, $3.7 million. Sean McDermott on the new signing.
Veteran, experienced player that's, from the reports we've gotten, high character, leader. He's played a lot of football and certainly a big man, and the line of scrimmage is important.
Josh Allen was a full participant today. We'll talk Bills football next hour. Thad Brown will be joining us. Week 9 begins tonight. It's the Titans and Steelers. Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy joining us next. Amherst next in action tomorrow night at home against Utica. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Week 9 in the NFL starts tonight in Pittsburgh. The Steelers hosting the Tennessee Titans. We bring in Yahoo Fantasy Sports Andy Behrens to help set your Week 9 lineups and navigate through some of these issues. We've got some bye weeks. We've got some new quarterbacks starting in new places. Andy, a lot to unpack, a lot to uncover as we're now beyond the halfway point of the fantasy football regular season. How are you and how are your teams holding up, Andy?
Oh, I'm good. This is trading season, right? Like once the buys kick in, once we start getting these, 14, 6 teams on buy, it's trading season. So I've been trying to land the plane on a couple of trades all day. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it's agreed to, and then it's not, and then it's pulled again. So we're trying out here. I'm working real hard.
Ooh, okay. Do you mind sharing with our audience? I would imagine the person you're trading with is not living in Rochester, so.
It's an interesting question. They have far-reaching tentacles, so who knows what they will. I'm trying to get great players. This is like a 16-team, keeper league. I'm trying to acquire Tyreek Hill for the stretch run. I'm trying to acquire. I actually think Tony Pollard is a really nice buy low, and I'm trying to acquire Tony Pollard somewhere else. But this is, the broader point here is that we got buys to cover, and this is like if you're a 3-5 team, you're a 2-6 team, and you're in any kind of keeper or dynasty league, you got to start making decisions, and you got to, this is like a win-win situation is what I'm trying to offer, but I'm also trying to convince someone that they should probably give up on this year, and that is a very gentle conversation to have.
Yes. Okay, very good. Andy, let's start with tonight. We got the Steelers, we got the Titans. There's some fantasy relevance here, and I think Will Levis makes it so because of what we saw him do last week in his debut. Poor Kenny Pickett is, being held together with duct tape and bubble gum at this point in that backfield. What's your take on tonight's game between the Steelers and Titans?
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see Levis because, there's obviously a lot of excitement in fantasy circles, certain fantasy circles around him. I was not big on Levis coming out of college. He's got a huge arm. He's pretty athletic, but now I feel, as I say this to you guys, I feel like I'm describing young Josh Allen. He's not bad. He doesn't have that sort of rushing ability, but big arm, but really scattershot in college, right? And you look at the raw numbers and the TD totals relative to interceptions. It wasn't always great. It wasn't always a clinic with Levis. It's a weird game for him in some respects because everything was either at the line of scrimmage or was 40 yards downfield. But it was good to see somebody in Tennessee stretch the field. It was obviously good to see DeAndre Hopkins get going. So I don't know why they wouldn't go to this permanently. I don't know why we're not just going to say that Will Levis is our rest of season quarterback and we'll figure it out and he's eventually going to take his lumps and we'll see what that looks like. This is a much greater challenge, obviously, going up against TJ Watt and friends, right? This is different. You're not going to have the same time to throw. And it might not be quite as clean as it was last week, but a really important stage for Levis and a chance to really consolidate power if he has a decent day.
Andy, I think the majority of our questions are going to be, hey, this team has a new quarterback. How does it impact everybody else? Well, the team I'm going to ask you about not only has a new quarterback this week, they have a new head coach. They have a new GM. The Raiders here. And Andy, sometimes when you make a change like this and, that'll wake everybody up and you could get like a short-term sugar high here maybe for the Raiders. Or are you just not putting any faith into Aiden O'Connell? And maybe a sidebar to this question, too. I find it hilarious that the Raiders on trade deadline day fire the GM. Like, I love this report that, that's why the Raiders kind of ghosted us on our trade offer there for Davante Adams.
Yeah, I actually think that is probably the critical point here. Like, you had to get through the trade deadline with your frickin' GM, right? Because, Jacobs was a trade chip, and I'm sure multiple teams were interested in Josh Jacobs. He's a great player. Davante Adams does not fit the timeline of what the Raiders should intend to do, right? Like, I get a great player, Hall of Famer, inner circle Hall of Famer. Davante Adams needs to go to a team that can win right now this year. He's not part of your 3-year program or whatever this is going to be in Vegas. So really terrible timeline on the departure of the GM. You either had to do this a month ago or you had to do it a week from now. But it's unbelievable that they did it this week. Anyway, that aside, O'Connell he wasn't great earlier this year, right? Like, we have one start for Aiden O'Connell. He fumbled 3 times. He threw a pick. I think he targeted Josh Jacobs 11 times. Like, he really peppered the running back with targets. So this is probably good for Jacobs. I don't know what it means for the outside receivers. O'Connell he's a rookie, but he's not a typical rookie because he's like 25. He's like 20 days younger than Jalen Hurts or something like that. He's old. He was at Purdue forever. So this isn't he's not super raw and inexperienced. He was a preseason hero. We'll see. Nothing could look worse than what we got from Jimmy Garoppolo last week. That was just a disaster game. And I don't think anybody can reasonably argue that he deserved to keep to maintain, the controls of the Raiders offense. He missed Davante on a couple of long touchdowns. It was just a brutal game. Also, I heard the introductory press conference from Antonio Pierce, and I wanted to run through a wall. I think he's I don't know if it'll be good. I don't know if they'll win any games, right? But I don't know. That's the energy that you need to bring to this. That's the old school Raiders swagger that we want to have around this franchise. So I'm somewhat optimistic for him. I'm not super optimistic for O'Connell, but we'll see. I think Jacobs is the one player here who can make out okay.
Andy, what I love about our schedule on Sunday is we've got great games in every window, starting in the morning with the Germany game and the Chiefs. Do we see a bounce back here from Andy Reid? And with the Dolphins, do we consider that really, when they beat up on bad teams, but when they've been faced against good teams in their 2 losses, whether you're talking the Eagles or the Bills, they got beaten, they got beat bad. Will that be the thing that you see in Germany against the Chiefs as they bounce back from that Denver loss?
Yeah, super interesting game. You're so right. We have absolutely great games in every window. Miami is the leading scoring team this year, right? They're scoring about 35 a game. They're facing the team that led the NFL in scoring last year. Obviously, a couple of teams that should be powerhouses. I think the really interesting thing here is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs passing game, because they're kind of quietly averaging almost a touchdown less per game this year. They are not scoring like they did last year. They've only I think 2 games this season in which they've hit last year's scoring average. They don't have a top 40 fantasy receiver on the team, which is wild because Mahomes is still the QB3 on the season. It's just a clunky offense that, they're going to struggle to get to 30, and it's been a while since we've said that about a Patrick Mahomes-led team. And I feel like Miami can put 30 on anybody at any time, even in a loss. So I don't know. I feel like there's a narrative around Miami that is just a little bit disrespectful to Philadelphia and Buffalo. Those are great teams, and it's okay to lose to those teams. Miami is still the club that put 70 points on someone this year. They're really dangerous. Tyreek is healthy. Waddle is healthier than he's been all season. I don't know. I kind of feel like Miami might win this one.
Vikings and Falcons at 1 o'clock. Two teams that are going to have new quarterbacks. The Vikings are going to trot out Jaron Hall for at least 1 week. So part one of the question here, are we avoiding the Vikings, or are you looking at maybe like a Cam Akers as like a sneaky play there? And then the Falcons, Andy, I always liked Taylor Heineke in certain spots when he was in Washington, and I'm actually kind of excited here to see can he, he came in relief last week, did okay. I'm actually excited to see the Falcon offense and how this is going to look this week.
Yeah, obviously the issue with Ritter is he was just a turnover machine. He was actually relatively productive in fantasy. So especially given expectations, he was running a little bit. But we know we can get that from Heineke as well. So I certainly don't think there's any major disruption to Atlanta's offense, and it's not like you were relying on Ritter in fantasy outside of the deepest superflex league. So I feel like everything's fine there. I do not feel like everything's fine in Minnesota, at least for a week. Now, you probably don't have the luxury to sit someone like Jordan Addison with Jaron Hall at quarterback. I mean, we're talking about a fifth-round rookie quarterback here, and it didn't look great last week. I don't think the upside for that offense with him at QB is particularly great. I do think they made a nice move for Josh Dobbs, and I don't mean to say that I think that Josh Dobbs himself is going to be some sort of startable fantasy commodity over the balance of the season, but he did turn Hollywood Brown into a wide receiver 2 this year. Like Hollywood right now is like the wide receiver 20, wide receiver 21, depending on your scoring format. He was getting big weeks out of Trey McBride and or Zach Ertz. Like that offense has worked just fine for fantasy purposes, certainly better than we thought it would. So I think when they get Justin Jefferson back, like Jefferson probably isn't the overall wide receiver 1 anymore, but I do think he's still, I think Dobbs is good enough to make Jefferson a top 8 fantasy receiver, to make Addison a top 20, top 25 fantasy receiver. So I feel like we kind of he's clearly not going to be as good as Kirk Cousins, because Cousins was just absolutely humming. He'd been great, bunch of 350-yard games. But I do feel like we got a little bit of a bailout in Josh Dobbs. Like this is probably the best case scenario fantasy-wise.
Andy, let me see if I can stump my co-host over here. I'm sure you know the answer. Do you know who tight end 2 in fantasy football has been since, I want to say week 5 or week 6? Andy, help me out if you know the exact time frame I'm talking about here. Any idea?
It's not Sam Laporta. Is Sam Laporta number 1?
I'm gonna guess it's Taysom Hill.
It is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is tight end 2 behind Travis Kelce since, Andy, is it week 5 or week 6 that I saw the stat?
I know that in each of the last 3 weeks, he's actually been a top 6 fantasy tight end. So I feel like it probably goes back 3 weeks. This is probably since week 6, but he's obviously not a traditional tight end, but the secret there is that most of the tight ends that we start in fantasy are not traditional tight ends. Right. They're basically wide receivers. So I'm not going to get hung up on position eligibility with Taysom Hill. He filled the box score last week. It was really fun, right? Like 60-plus rushing yards, couple touchdowns. He caught a pass for 14 yards. He threw 2 passes, one of which was completed for 44 yards. Like that, I don't know. That was really fun. And the thing about Taysom Hill is we know that the quiet weeks are going to be super quiet, but that's just how the tight end position is too. Like when Taysom Hill has a big week, you probably win your matchup, because it looks like last week when he scores a couple of touchdowns, right? He gets inside the 5 carries, and So I don't know what else you could hope for at tight end. Like in my opinion, if you don't have Andrews, Laporta, Kelce, Kittle, Hawkinson, you should have gone out and gotten Taysom Hill this week, because I can easily see him outscoring everybody else at the position over the balance of the season.
Anybody that owns Darren Waller, if you're scrambling, there's your answer. And he's available out there too, right? I mean, like when I look at his projected points on a week-by-week basis, it's low. I mean, he's down there. But if he's out there and he's available, that's somebody you scoop up.
Yeah, he entered the week available in over 60% of Yahoo leagues. I'm not sure where it is right now, but he was definitely a recommended ad, and had been a recommended ad the prior week too. Again, just because the spike weeks are so good.
Yeah, Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy setting you up here for the week. It's funny, Andy, this feels like way long ago. It was only 1 week ago right now, or we were kind of in the extended pregame show for the Buffalo Bills, getting ready for that game against the Buccaneers. And, well, the Bills' offense looked a little better that night, but the thing that was noticeable, Andy, was it wasn't just Allen to Diggs. You had Gabe Davis involved. You also had Khalil Shakir getting some targets. You also had, you had the new tight end, Dalton Kincaid, getting involved. So my question is, now that you go into Cincinnati, are we confident enough beyond Diggs here from a fantasy standpoint that this is going to continue, that Josh Allen's going to distribute the ball and make it worth our while?
I tell you, the thing that interests me most is whether we get we already, Kincaid had been good a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to see him have a consolidation game sort of last week, right, where he's still super involved. I'm anxious to see if we get that from Shakir, because Shakir is coming off, his most involved and probably his best day as a pro, I would say. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that all of a sudden we're back in 11 personnel all the time, and there was a path to him getting on the field and a bunch of targets, and he caught them all. I'm very interested there, because it would be great to see, with all due respect to Gabe Davis, it would be great to see another receiver emerge in this offense, because I think we kind of know what Gabe Davis is, and he's either a big week and he finds the end zone, or it's a relatively quiet week. It would be great to get somebody in that offense who is just a bankable 5-6 catches of, not exactly Cole Beasley, but kind of the Cole Beasley numbers, right? A real chain mover. So that is very interesting to me. And then, of course, whatever we see from the ground game is always interesting, because man, am I fielding a lot of complaints about James Cook, who's actually been a pretty good player, but, he's not getting the money touches, and that is a problem.
Andy, the late afternoon window is highlighted by the Eagles hosting the Cowboys, and we saw the Cowboys offense turn it up against the Rams. You mentioned earlier that you think Tony Pollard is a nice buy low candidate here rest of season. Do the Cowboys offense keep it rolling against the defending NFC champs? And what do you make of the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, and the knee injuries? It's certain that, almost every NFL player isn't playing at 100% at this point of the season, but how might it affect Hurts and his ability to distribute?
Yeah, I think the bigger issue there is just the quality of Dallas's defense overall. The front, the corners, they've just played really well. It'll be interesting to see if A.J. Brown can keep it going. It'll be interesting to see if Devontae Smith can, give a second consecutive good week, right? Those have been few and far between this season. Two defenses that should be pretty good. Philadelphia has had its weak moments, right? Seeing them kind of get lit up by Washington was a little bit eye-opening. So you can certainly imagine them losing to Dallas. But Dallas is also really schizophrenic, and you never know which version of that team is going to show up. They probably should just look at last week and say, okay, we're going to build the whole thing around CeeDee Lamb. He's great. He's one of the 10 best receivers, 6 best receivers in the NFL right now. Let's feed that man. But they don't always do it. So that's one concern that I have. I trust Dallas's defense a little bit more than I trust Philadelphia's defense, which again has been up and down, has really given up some numbers to some teams that I did not expect to produce them.
Andy, last one for me, and this is not one of the matchups I have circled for Sunday, but for fantasy purposes, maybe. Are we trusting Sam Howell in the Commanders' offense after they didn't win against Philadelphia, but man, that was entertaining, and some points there that we all left on our bench. So are we putting Commanders in our lineup here against the Patriots?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, if you're a young quarterback, don't watch Sam Howell. I don't think it's necessarily teaching tape, right? Holds the ball forever. He's still on pace for almost 90 sacks on the season. But at the end of the day, the numbers are often there, and he's coming off a great week, almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, through one ball that was picked and at least one other that should have been picked. So again, it's not always a clinic, but he can run a little bit. He's got great receivers. It's also really hard to say in a week where 5 quarterbacks went down to injury. I can't tell you not to start Sam Howell. Sam Howell, to me, is a great option. Derek Carr is a great option this week. Gardner Minshew is a great option this week. Some really sketchy names are all of a sudden great options because we have a bunch of good quarterbacks who are out of the mix.
And then you have quarterbacks that I think you had higher expectations for, underachieving. And you heard from the Packers front office today, less than a vote of confidence, actually yesterday, less than a vote of confidence on Jordan Love. Is that the motivating factor that maybe gets Love in this Packers offense moving here against the Rams on Sunday?
I think the thing that would really get this Packers offense moving would be a healthy Aaron Jones. And we just haven't seen it all year, except for opening week when he scored a couple touchdowns and was clearly the most dynamic player on the field, is probably the most refined and best receiver on that team. Limited in his first practice this week. It would just be really nice to get a week of full practices from Aaron Jones and hear that he's cleared this hamstring thing and hear that, he's going to get back to being better than 50% of the backfield touches. Cause I don't think anything looks a whole lot better until he is again, sort of the hinge point of that offense.
Fantasy football live tonight, Andy. It's a great way to kind of set everybody up here as we get ready for Week 9. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, well, you if you didn't watch it last week, you missed a heck of a Halloween episode.
Arthur
Smith.
Arthur Smith is in the house.
I feel like I've been in costume now for the last week. I feel like you've got like a different one every day. That was really fun, but we're going to go over all the most important stories. We're going to preview the Thursday night game. We're going to field 1,000 different sit-start questions. So pretty informative, pretty fun. I hope you check it out. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern.
You're the absolute best, Andy. Good luck this weekend, and thanks for your time as always. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, everyone.
There's Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy Sports, joining us every Thursday to talk some fantasy football here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Yeah, it is one of those weeks that you just look at these games. I'm like, oh, this is great that the Bills are playing at night. The fact that you get Dolphins Chiefs in the morning.
Got a great window, the middle of the day. You get Seahawks Ravens. Great game there. Looking forward to that. Cowboys Eagles in the late afternoon window. I mean, come on. This is, even with all the teams on bye, even with the mess of quarterback situations that we're dealing with in fantasy football and around the NFL, this is going to be a good Sunday of football.
Yep, and then we'll have to pay the price. Do you know what game we get 1 week from today?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And
can you apologize for everybody?
Well, I'm tired of apologizing on behalf of the Bears. They don't belong in prime time. They shouldn't be in prime time. And you, as a football fan, you shouldn't have to sit through it.
We get the Bears hosting Carolina Thursday.
Yes. The toilet bowl. Battle for the first overall pick. Who wants it less?
Wait. No, actually, the Bears get both of those picks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll pay our tax a week from tonight with that stinker. But for now, we've got some pretty good matchups, and it starts tonight with Prime and the Steelers hosting the Tennessee Titans. Our first real glimpse on a national stage for Will Levis. He of the I eat my bananas with the peels on them at quarterback for the Titans.
Yeah, we got I'll drink to that coming up. Do we have some baseball takes? I think we have some baseball takes here, Dave.
Do have some baseball takes. I mean, first of all, there's something to be said for a manager who does what Bruce Bochy has done. And I'm curious, where does he rate on the list of all-time greatest managers? Because the resume is pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's a strong resume, and it's very quietly one of the strongest resumes, I think, going. And we mentioned Bart Winkler, who will be joining us tomorrow afternoon at 4:25. I want to share a take that he put out there because I think it's a great take, and I'm 100% on board with what he's saying.
I didn't know in this day and age where teams are just raking in cash, you could have such mismanagement that there's a team out there that had to take out a $50 million loan to make. We had this story come across in the 5 o'clock hour yesterday. I think it's worth diving into because it's going to have ramifications here coming up this offseason. And the Michigan cheating scandal, I got to take on this here too, Danger. The idea that these other coaches in the Big Ten are trying to lobby for punishment now.
What?
Well, it's... Yeah, we'll see where this goes.
866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool and join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4326. I'll drink to that is next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has
AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
63 years is a long time to wait, but the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. It's my distinct pleasure to present the Commissioner's Trophy to Ray Davis, Neil Liebman, and Chris Young.
I'd like to congratulate Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred on reaching puberty.
That's right.
We post-game.
This is official, right, as we're heading to cold and flu season. Get back to work. There's your baseball commissioner under the weather. No more staying home.
No,
Get out there.
I don't know that he's under the weather. I just think he was, again, being rained upon, a shower of booze being rained upon the commissioner, and his voice starts to crack almost as if, what is wrong with me? What do you mean? Why are you all booing me?
Now, there is a theory going around that the in-stadium PA cut out when they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Manfred." But still,
people in the stadium didn't know that Rob Manfred was. They were trying to make it so that people in the stadium wouldn't know that it was Rob Manfred handing out the commissioner's trophy. It's the commissioner's trophy. Of course, it's the commissioner, and of course, they're going to boo him. Good job by the remaining Rangers fans that were in attendance and Diamondback fans that stuck around as well. Thank you for fulfilling the prophecy as laid down here in the sports bar. You boo that man, and you boo him without prejudice. That was fantastic. And his... I don't know... Yeah, I mean, it's a Peter Brady impersonation here.
63 years is a long time to wait, but the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. It's my distinct pleasure to present the Commissioner's Trophy to Ray Davis, Neil Liebman, and Chris Young.
Yikes.
And then baseball fans will never forgive Rob Manfred just calling it a piece of metal. The Commissioner's Trophy.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it is. Yep.
So, some baseball takes.
Baseball. Danger, I want to go back to the story we had in Shots yesterday. How does any team in professional sports get so far in over their head that, oops, we need to take out a $50 million loan just to cover payroll? Ladies and gentlemen, your San Diego Padres. Now it all makes sense. Oh, you want our manager that makes $4 million a year? Here you go. This is only the beginning, obviously. Blake Snell, free agent, goodbye. Juan Soto, he can be yours for a low, low price. Yeah, I'm Johnny Boxspring of baseball, but that would be rude to Johnny Boxspring here. Look, how do we not know about any of this? How do we not? Well, it's San Diego, I guess. Not exactly hard-hitting media out there asking questions. I just think of all the other small market owners, Danger, that must be laughing their ass off here. All these years they had to answer questions about the Padres spending money, the Padres spending money. No, they're the guy that was trying to impress the girl going way over their credit limit. I think of that guy from the Reds. He must be hysterically laughing.
Champagne taste, hot dog wallets. You don't have the money to afford that payroll. You're taking out a $50 million loan in a small market. And the other small market teams that are actually winning by... I don't know, developing their young players and,
like Arizona, like that was pretty impressive what they did on their payroll. Now, we should say, well, I'm sure they didn't forecast that their whole TV partnership would blow up and there goes a revenue stream.
Right. But you mentioned the Reds. The Reds were exciting this year. They've got young talent that the fans can get excited about, and the fans will come out and see at the ballpark. The Orioles are certainly a great story. Like, there's plenty of situations where you don't have teams going out there and spending the way the Padres are spending to the point where they have to take out a loan just to cover player salaries. My goodness.
The Players Association must hate that, right? That you had a team mismanaged, because now every other team is going to be like, well, and just kind of back off a little.
This was a take that was shared last night by our CBS Sports Radio pal, Bart Winkler, who will be joining us, by the way, tomorrow afternoon at 4:25. His take, baseball, and I agree with this, baseball needs to shorten its season. The playoff needs to happen in August. The World Series should end around Labor Day weekend. The sport does its best when it's the only game in town all summer. No one cares about the World Series because football consumes us. Now, just hear me out. I know this will never happen because it means less revenue overall for the sport, and if you follow the money, of course. But just the theory alone, the take is spot on, and I agree with it 100%. If baseball really wanted to be as impactful as it once was, you need to stop trying to compete with the start of hockey, the start of basketball, and of course football in both college and the pros in full swing by the time you're getting to your marquee event in the beginning of November and late October.
Well, we've seen another sport do this, golf. Like, golf realized, hey, it's August and people are already into the NFL. Move the PGA Championship, much to our detriment here in Rochester, because we love to have another one and the weather much better in August than in May. But I digress. I don't want to stop just there. I think the NBA would be wise, Danger, to do the same thing. Like, the WNBA has that summer window, but really, shouldn't it be the NBA? Like, shouldn't the NBA start maybe around February and then wrap up August? Like, take that piece of the pie the baseball has. Wow, people aren't inside. Television numbers are down. Are they really? I think avoiding football is a good strategy, but for baseball traditionalists like myself, and baseball writer,
the sanctity of 162 games.
No,
season.
this is part of Americana, Danger. It's in our blood. You need to. They don't call it the Summer Classic. It's the Fall Classic.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it always stings. Like last night, watching the game and it's over, and you realize, baseball season's over. Because you know what's next. Now it's
stop.
Now it's.
I'm going to be your coach here. Mentally tough. Oh,
I'm totally mentally tough, but you can't change the fact that closes the door on one season and opens the door to the next. Halloween kind of does it from a holiday standpoint on the calendar, but from a sports standpoint on the sports calendar, it's baseball ending that signifies, all right, well, it's winter.
It's, to me, there's two sports. Once college basketball starts. Okay, there, and then once it's wrapping up, that's the end, and baseball's back.
That's right.
That's back. We look back to known cheaters in baseball like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and you look at their numbers, Danger, and you realize, okay, that's when Bonds started to use. Okay, he was just doing 40 home runs up to 73. Same thing with Clemens. Clemens was washing out in Boston, goes to Toronto, meets Jose Canseco, and all of a sudden, voila. It's only in hindsight where you get it. And I think now, if you look at Michigan football, wait a second. They lost 5 games. They lost 4. The pandemic year, they were 2 games below 500. They could never beat Ohio State. And the coach had 1 foot up. Oh, but look at us now. We're a national playoff team. Are you really? Like Penn State, it's on you, Penn State. Let's assume Michigan can no longer cheat and single in all these plays. Penn State, you should win this game in 2 weeks.
Well, they've probably been monitoring Penn State through the beginning of this season at least, right?
Okay, then change your signals. You have enough time to do that.
Look, with Penn State, I think anybody that follows Penn State, they're just like tired of James Franklin's bit, right? Like the idea that, hey, we're proud of our team for playing tough and hanging with Ohio State. It's like, no. You've been there 10 years. That's not good enough anymore. If you want your program, and everybody expects Penn State to be an elite program, every Penn State fan I know expects that program to be elite. The expectations are probably unrealistic, but they want to be what Ohio State and what Michigan are, and they can't live up to it. Beat a team like Michigan, and then we'll talk.
Well, and that would do everybody. That would do the committee. Would it be better for college football if Michigan got in and you had this whole story, but the story kind of brings attention to it, albeit negative attention? Or would it be better if Penn State won and then Ohio State put the finishing touch and then enjoy yourself there in the New Year's Day Bowl in Tampa, whatever it is?
You know what I love, and this is a real subtle thing that I pick up on. But as you start to see this story pop up in your feed, the Michigan story pop up in your feed, notice the imagery that is used around the program, the logo, and Coach Harbaugh. Watch how it goes dark, like how they'll always find like the image of Harbaugh looking angry or, poorly lit or, just really darker, more menacing, kind of evil tone to the images used around the coach and the brand. And let me know if I'm onto something, because I've noticed it in the last couple of weeks that whenever there's an image associated with the story, it's and I think it's probably by design. Like, it's a dark story. It's a story about a program that is cheating. So they're using this imagery to kind of further that imagery of, a guy who is evil, a guy who is a villain, a guy who cheats.
Okay, so I just did the Google search, and Sports Illustrated, there's Harbaugh, gritting his teeth, looking up in the sky.
Kind of angry.
Yeah, kind of angry.
Yeah.
YouTube video where Harbaugh is yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something to that.
All right, I'm not crazy then. Because
awful announcing, a reputable site. Like, he's yelling on the sideline and an official going crazy.
Yes. You could use
it's not him. Yeah,
you can use any image you want of Jim Harbaugh or the University of Michigan, but you're going to choose the image of him looking more menacing, more evil, more like a villain. Which, I just pick up on that, and that's. I don't think that that's anything that's new. I feel like that's fairly common. A lot of politicians will do that too.
And keep showing the coach there, the other guy there.
Oh,
on the sideline.
Yeah, the guy that was stealing
the
cheater. All right, so listen. After last night and the I almost said the Giants, Bruce Bochy's Texas Rangers. Where does Bruce Bochy sit now on the list of best managers of all time? Because now with that win last night, that's his 4th World Series, and he had 3 with the Giants. This is first with the Rangers. What he did this postseason, 11-0 on the road. I mean, that's a mark, Gino, that is going to be tough to beat. I don't know that we'll ever see that again. And speaking of tough to beat, Bochy's managed teams have now won 15 of 16 playoff series that he's managed. Whose resume is on par with his? I'm genuinely curious if we're watching the greatest manager of all time and we don't even realize it.
That's a great take. And he also had a World Series with the Padres. They were outmanned against the Yankees, but that's how he got his feet wet. And another Padres story there. You let him go. You can bring up names like Sparky Anderson, but that was a different era, pre-free agency. Now we're kind of going way, way back. Some would say Tony La Russa.
Sure.
Okay, he won with Oakland and he won with St. Louis. So anybody that wins with 2 different franchises, I think, is on the list. But as you mentioned, this is now 4. 3 with the Giants, 1 with the Rangers. You could say this one was the most impressive.
Is it either feast or famine with him? Because when I see that they're in the postseason, when his teams are in the postseason, they rarely lose a series. He's won 15 of 16 series in the postseason. Is it just a matter of getting to the postseason? If he can make it to the postseason, he's a lock?
I just don't know how much longer he's going to be with us. I'm looking at him like him walking out to the mound and everything. It's like, okay, is he even going to come back next year? I don't even know.
Well, it's an unbelievable career, and he knows something that we don't know because he's able to get those guys playing at a different level. He did it in San Francisco, and he certainly did it this year with the Rangers. That offense was tough to beat. And, man, last night, as you're watching that game, all I could think to myself is Eovaldi is getting beaten up, and the Diamondbacks are not capitalizing. They're stranding runners left and right. I think they had 11 stranded for the game. And Eovaldi is battling through the first 5 innings of that game. And when the score was still 0-0, I'm like, the Rangers are going to pop. They're going to pop.
For the stupidest of reasons. So I watched the Sabre game last night, and then I flipped over. I'm like, oh, no hitter. Oh, okay. And then Seager comes up. I mean, it's like literally off the end of the bat, a little roller, and then... right after that, you get the first run.
Yeah. Well, big congratulations to Bruce Bochy. And I'm genuinely curious where he sits on the Mount Rushmore of greatest managers in Major League Baseball history, because I find what he has done to be wildly impressive as a manager in the bigs.
Peter putting it on the poll. Joe Torre. No Yankee fans would say that, but...
I mean, look,
he's a great manager.
Of course. I know. I'm saying Bochy. I'm not saying Bochy is better than anybody. I'm just saying where does he come down, and who is the great? Like, do we ever have the conversation of the greatest of all time? We have the debate in the NFL. Everybody wants to believe that it's Bill Belichick.
I think baseball managers have been replaced by the computer for the most part. Yankee fans would agree. Like the last few years, what does the computer say? Oh, put it in. Bochy is not that way. I think you have to manage personalities and feel and everything else. I think if you have a nice balance of the two.
Thad Brown, News 8 Sports, going to join us here in about 15, 20 minutes, and we'll talk more about the Buffalo Bills here. We'll get you updated on today's moves. They did add a defensive tackle today in Linval Joseph. Rasul Douglas in his introductory press conference, his first time on the Bills practice field this afternoon as well. We'll get to all of that and more. Thad Brown in just a few. You can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Oh, this is cool.
W239BF Rochester. The Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Buffalo Bills adding some depth on the defensive line today. Linval Joseph, defensive tackle, 35 years old, came into the league with the Giants, last with Philadelphia. The deal essentially takes up the rest of the cap space, 1 year, $3.72 million. Josh Allen back at practice today. Sean McDermott has no concerns.
If he's out there, he's playing. Certainly we're aware of his situation, but feel confident from what the medical team has shared with me that he should be ready to go.
We'll talk to Thad Brown later this hour. Some Buffalo Bills football. Bills and Bengals, our pregame coverage Sunday begins at 4 p.m. Week 9 begins tonight. It's the Titans and the Steelers. Amherst host Utica tomorrow night. Sabres coming off a win in Philadelphia. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bengals and the Bills are the two best teams in the AFC, and they face off Sunday Night Football. Who should be the favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Cincinnati. I think the Bengals, they're back. I mean, the Bengals kind of own the Bills. I feel like it's a bad matchup for the Bills. I think that the Bengals probably win this one fairly easily.
Mike Danger.
I give them a chance against Cincinnati, and I think they could beat Cincinnati.
Gene Battaglia.
This is the team, for whatever reason, we can't get past here.
Linval Joseph. Break down the matchup tonight, Titans and Steelers.
He struck him out looking. It's over. It's over. The Rangers have won the World Series.
World Series champions.
That's what's in.
Texas also set a new record going 11-0 on the road in the postseason. Corey Seager, your MVP.
So now there are 5 current teams without a world title.
Brendan Biro, welcome back. 2 goals on the night. Syracuse coming away with a 7-2 win over the Amherst.
Well, there was only one Bobby Knight. He should be remembered for the great coaching he did. One of the greatest ever of all time.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you making us part of your afternoon. Thad Brown, News 8 Sports, is set to join us here in about 10 minutes or so, and we'll talk to Thad about everything from today's practice for the Buffalo Bills, a couple of new faces in tow, including Linval Joseph, Rasul Douglas making his debut on the practice field for the Buffalo Bills today, and Leonard Fournette getting a harsh reality of what life in Western New York is like, calling the weather colder than a penguin's ass, I believe was his.
No lie, Buffalo, colder than a penguin ass out here, Lord.
Well, no lies detected.
Leonard, it gets worse, buddy. Yeah. Much, much worse. But we're glad to have you here.
We're glad to have Josh Allen back on the practice field. You mentioned it in your sports update. He was a full participant, and as obviously it's going to take a lot to get him to not go on Sunday night. He's on his way to starting, albeit probably with a bum shoulder.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to get any better. Let's just put it that way before the end of the season. So it's just something that he'll have to kind of manage through. We talked to Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy, and it's interesting to get people's perspective that are kind of observing the Buffalo Bills nationally and just talking about like the targets for the Buffalo Bills offense, that you know what Diggs is going to get, but that was a different game against Tampa. Yes, it ended up a Hail Mary away from a massive upset, but the offense overall was much, much better. And the reason, because you were spreading the ball around, and you had Gabe Davis, and you had Khalil Shakir, and, well, you had also Dalton Kincaid. And Andy's take was this, like, Davis will remain the boomer bust sort of guy. It's Khalil Shakir that you should look to getting more involved, especially if the Bills, and we are champions of this, go to 3 wide receivers more often, the 11 personnel. Danger, are you in agreement with Andy on that take that this should be something the Bills should work toward, getting more Shakir in the offense?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also agree with something you said earlier, and it kind of simplifies everything. And I know we love to pick apart game film and discuss what personnel they're lining up in offensively. Ultimately, this comes down to Josh Allen's ability to make the right decision. And if good Josh is out there, then I don't have a doubt the Bills can play with anybody. They can beat anybody in the NFL. If Josh Allen is out there slinging it, doing it the right way. But when Josh Allen puts his team in a 10-0 hole the way he did against New England, and look, he deserves some criticism for that that interception on the first offensive play from scrimmage, or when you have the kind of game you had week 1. Those aren't recipes for this. This team is not equipped to overcome, and really no team is equipped to overcome those kind of challenges, those kind of adversities. You try to mask it, and you fight with an urgency to claw your way back into those games, but it's not enough, and it's too much. It's too much to put on yourself. It's too much to put on the team. So I'm looking to see if the Bills can get off to the kind of start that we saw them get off to against Tampa. When you saw some design runs by Josh Allen, when you saw Allen really kind of pushing the defense back, making the defense play on their heels and have to respect the dual threat that he is. And the idea that you spread it around the way you did against Tampa. If you could do more of that, then I give him a chance against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think what this is going to come down to, and we'll make our picks tomorrow on this, but I think it's can the Bills cash into the red zone? When we talked yesterday to Anthony Cosenza from the Cincy Jungle, this is a Bengal defense that maybe is a half beat behind where they were last year. They're still very good, but they're going to give up yards. It's almost kind of like the Bills here. They'll let you have yards here, bending and not breaking. They're waiting for you to kind of make that mistake. So if the safeties kind of play back, the Bills, I think, could actually kind of move the ball the way they did against the Buccaneers. But when you get down close, can you not settle for Tyler Bass here?
Yeah. So we'll get Thad on with us next. Thad Brown from News 8 Sports. We'll get some of his takes on Sunday night's matchup against the Bengals and see what he had to what he observed, what he took in here with Linval Joseph, Rasul Douglas, certainly Leonard Fournette, all these new faces now at Buffalo Bills practice, One Bills Drive rather, and some of the comments made here this week at the trade deadline by Brandon Beane, by Sean McDermott, and what it means here for the rest of the season for this Bills roster that's trying to overcome some significant injuries that they're just now able to kind of patch some solutions together. And then there's the Kaiir Elam conversation. Oh yes, with the addition of Linval Joseph, Kaiir Elam goes to IR with an ankle injury that, frankly, I don't know that any of us really knew he was suffering from, but that's the story.
Well, when did it happen? A couple weeks ago. I'm not sure.
Is there a practice that we don't see the practices, so I guess we wouldn't know if he was injured during practice. Anyways, Elam on IR. He's going to miss at least the next 4 weeks. We'll get to Thad Brown of News 8 Sports next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. It's me, Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, and kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, a veteran, experienced player that's, from the reports we've gotten, high character, leader. He's played a lot of football and certainly a big man, and the line of scrimmage is important. Is
there a possibility that, as you assess him, that he could even play on Sunday? And ditto for Rasul. I mean, is it within the realm of possibility?
It is. We have to see how it goes today. Take it one day at a time and see where it goes. Yeah.
There's Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott on a couple of new faces joining the Buffalo Bills this week. Defensive tackle Linval Joseph, corner Rasul Douglas, Thad Brown, News 8 Sports, jumping in right now. Let's start with Joseph. Thad, what are the Buffalo Bills getting here in their new defensive tackle? Thad?
Not sure. Going once, going twice.
Do we have Thad Brown? We lost Thad Brown. Okay. All right, Gino, try and get Thad back on. In the meantime, I'll reset her. It looks like Thad might be checking back in with us here, and we can get him back on the blower here and get his take on everything that's gone on here in the last few days around the Buffalo Bills. We're good with Thad Brown. Hey, Thad, just wanted to, we heard Sean McDermott's words and his expectations here with Linval Joseph, Rasul Douglas. What are you hearing, and what do you think the Bills got here on their new defensive tackle? Let's start with Joseph.
I think they got a pretty solid depth add. I mean, Joseph is 35 years old, so you can't expect him to play like he was, as a Pro Bowler, 6-7 years ago. But he's a big man. Someone, asked me on Twitter today, is this like getting Cole Beasley last year? And it's not, because when a defensive tackle or an offensive lineman ages, they don't have to. These are not guys that are asked to create separation. It's almost the opposite, especially with Joseph. Just plug a hole. And at 6'4", 340, that's something that guy can do, like, just by standing up. So he should still be effective. But is he going to be great? Is he going to be, a high-level guy? I think that might be too much to expect. Is he better than what the Bills have? Considering, that Puna Ford has been a disappointment this year, I think they certainly improved at least a little bit with that position.
Yeah, so the big trade here, bringing in Rasul Douglas for really just a pick swap. Like, what am I missing here? This seems like a pretty easy decision here. And what should our expectation be here as far as when we might actually see Douglas? Could we see him coming up Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a decent chance of that. He was a full practice today, and I think especially against the Bengals, that's a guy you want in your lineup. I think people might have looked at Douglas and maybe the initial reaction is, wow, this is a great player, superstar. And this is a guy that wasn't even really the starter in Green Bay, in large part because the Packers spent 2 recent first-round picks on guys, so they want to play those guys. But Douglas got a ton of playing time, in large part because Stokes, one of the second of the 2 first-rounders, has been hurt a lot. This is a good player, but, you talk about why only a pick swap. Well, I mean, again, he's not an elite starter. He's not even a regular starter for the Packers. And, he's a playmaker with 10 interceptions, tall guy, 6'2", great size for a Bills defensive back. But he's also, to be a playmaker, you got to be aggressive a lot. And when you're aggressive a lot, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So he's going to be susceptible to the double move. Stephon Diggs got him once last year when the Packers were in Buffalo last year. So it's not like this is a foolproof upper echelon elite number 1 corner. I think he's better than what the Bills got again, but this is not a superstar. This is just a solid, good player. So I like the move, but I think when you're coming from a point of view of, wow, only a pick swap, what am I missing? Well, this is not a guy who's, changing the face of the Bills season. This is someone on Twitter today compared this to me, what the Bills have done the last couple of days in total as, shopping at the clearance rack of Goodwill. And I think they might be underselling it a little, but this is a team, the Bills, that didn't have a ton of cap room to work with, didn't at least find a deal or maybe didn't even want to spend high-level draft capital. So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get guys who are going to, improve the margins, work around the edges a little bit. But I don't think the Bills, season outlook is, incredibly changed by what they've done this week.
Was the Douglas move made because of the injury to Kaiir Elam? Do we know more about the injury to Kaiir Elam? We know that he's going on IR, but we didn't really hear anything or see him on the injury report, Thad, so there's a little bit of mystery there. And, of course, his difficulties to just get on the field this season have been well chronicled by yourself and everybody else that watches this team.
Yeah, the injury was an ankle. He's been on the injury report the last couple weeks, but I think yesterday Brandon Beane, to a degree, maybe implied that the injury had an impact on how he's played, which, I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, he's been a guy who's underperformed since the moment he's got here before, whether he had the ankle injury or not. Now, I'm not saying that the injury is not real. Clearly it is. He's on injured reserve, so that's an actual thing. But, to say, well, that's why he hasn't improved, I think is, certainly reinventing how the last few months have gone for him. He's been a guy who just hasn't played, as well. As for Douglas, though, he was a response to Trey White getting hurt, not for Elam. Maybe now, look, if Elam had played great, they don't go out and get Douglas. But Brandon Beane said yesterday they've been looking for a corner from the moment White went down. Which frankly, that statement almost contradicts his own statement before when I was talking about how he sort of kind of implied that the ankle injury had something to do with Elam. Clearly they wanted to fill a void they thought they had the moment Trey White got hurt, and Elam's ankle was not an issue, at least publicly at that point. So, this to me is simply, we lost a star and a starter. We needed to find one, and they absolutely got one. I don't think he's elite, but he's 100% a starter in this league, and will fill that void.
Thad Brown, News 8, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Those two aren't the only moves here this week, Thad. Go back to beginning of the week, and something that had been, reported on, actually, the Bills, and didn't come to fruition a couple weeks ago, did. Leonard Fournette coming to the practice squad, and now the way this kind of works is the Bills would have to elevate him. You only get 3 elevations, and maybe at some point Leonard Fournette joins the active 53. Should running back 2 be the realistic expectation for Leonard Fournette here, Thad?
I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time finding real impact out of this move because, people have talked about, all right, well, he's going to take over for Ty Johnson. Well, I don't know about that because Ty Johnson plays special teams and Leonard Fournette does not. I was very interested yesterday, his first practice, when the Bills, get done with stretching, the first thing to do is special teams. And guys who are on special teams have to participate in that. Well, Fournette immediately ran over the running backs, James Cook and Latavius Murray, who don't play special teams. So he's not doing that here, and that's not a surprise. So, the Ty Johnson spot really probably isn't in the cards for Leonard Fournette. That's not a thing he can do. So he's got to take Latavius Murray's spot. And, whatever you think of the 2 backs, Fournette is certainly the guy who came into the league that's more talented and certainly younger now. Although, in NFL, by NFL years, Fournette's 28, Murray's 33. I don't know if that makes much of a difference. They're both, well past their prime. But, more to the point, Murray's been pretty good this year. I think better than all of us thought he would be. And I haven't seen anything from Murray the last 2 or 3 weeks that would make me think the Bills need to go out and find someone else to do his job. So, if Murray's still worthy of having that spot, what exactly is Fournette going to do? He's not taking James Cook's job. So I really kind of honestly think he's here to be the practice squad running back, to be the backup. And now look, if Murray's, play slacks or if Fournette just looks that good in practice, you can flip him. But, I mean, for now, Cook and Murray seem semi-entrenched as 1 and 2, and I just don't see a spot for Fournette.
Thad, we didn't see Josh Allen practice yesterday. He was a full participant today. The shoulder is clearly an issue, and is probably going to be an issue, I would imagine, for the rest of the season. What's your take on the health of the Bills quarterback?
I mean, he's going to play, so there isn't a concern about him missing time, at least in the near term. But the fact that he's not practicing on a Wednesday, especially coming out of a mini bye, certainly should raise a little bit of concern. This is not a guy who's 100%. This is a quarterback that's certainly dealing with some pain, and that seems to be more of the issue than I think risking further damage. It's just a pain factor. But it is a problem. When you start missing time, when you're not even, on the field participating in practice. I mean, the quarterbacks already wear red jerseys. They could have put them out there and protected them from being hit. This is about not being able to throw passes as often as you would like, or at least the Bills not wanting him to. Now, is this going to be an every week thing? Is it just, hey, we had a mini bye, let's give Josh 1 extra day, so we, almost give him a full week off? Or essentially we do give him a full week off between throwing. Maybe that's all it is. But for this second, the bottom line is something ain't quite right with the quarterback enough so that he's missing practices.
Yeah, Thad, when we last saw the Bills 1 week ago today or tonight, that offense looked better, right? I mean, like for the first half, Josh Allen spreading the ball around. And in your opinion, should this be more of the base offense? Because we heard so much about two tight end. Well, Dawson Knox isn't available, but Dalton Kincaid out there and going to 3 wide. What we saw the first half in particular, should that be more of what you would like to see the Buffalo Bills do moving from here on out?
Yeah, almost two different questions there. Would I like to see that? Sure. Because what they were doing before wasn't quite working. Is this the answer? I don't know the answer to that, because a lot of what happened on Thursday night was Tampa Bay just being bad. I thought both touchdown passes were pretty egregious coverage breakdowns. The Bucs came in with a reputation of being a poor zone team, and give the Bills credit, they exploited it all night long. I mean, they beat Tampa into the ground, just taking what they were giving them, easy stuff, zone-wise, RPO-wise. But I don't think the Bills are going to see a whole lot of that the rest of the year. Maybe a little bit with the Bengals on Sunday night because they're not a superstar defense. But when you think about Jets, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys still on the schedule, what happened Thursday night to me is not a indication of an offense turning a corner. Thursday night to me was coming up with something different on a short week that the other team wasn't prepared for, or at least the other team couldn't handle, and then taking advantage of it. Because, the Bills scored 24 points, and then they stopped scoring. It wasn't because they took their foot off the gas. They were still trying to score. The Bucs just stopped doing dumb things, and all of a sudden the Bills were bogging down near midfield. Now, look, if they had gone for a few of those fourth downs and scored 2 more touchdowns, it feels different. But regardless, they had multiple third downs that Tampa Bay just stoned them on. And to me, that's enough of a red flag to say, well, I don't know if the offense is good yet. Doesn't mean that they can't keep going to that and be effective with it. But what happened Thursday night is not at all, an indication of, the corner's been turned, things have been figured out, and we're back to the Bills of, a year and a half ago, and they were going up and down fields on teams.
Thad, tell me if you think like I do, but I do think a corner has been turned, and we are in the emergence era now of Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid with 2 great games and having a bit of a coming out party, and his game looks different when we see him make the plays that he's making, and we see Josh Allen find him. You do get the feeling that there might be something special brewing here. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know about corner turn yet with 2 good games, but I do agree that he looks different than what the Bills have had tight end wise, just athletically. Beyond what you saw with the big catches, there were a couple other plays where you could see him causing problems. He drew a defensive hold on a different play. You see the athleticism there. That said, there were more than a few reps where the Bucs went man to man and just, took him out of totally erased him from a route. So he's not a guy that's going to, escape all the time, but he is different, with the athletic ability, with the hands. That catch in the sideline was ridiculously good. So, I certainly think the Bills should continue going to him. Do we expect 5 to 8 catches a game every week? I'm not there yet, but it's definitely not out of the realm.
Thad Brown, News 8, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Sunday night, Bills and Bengals, and this isn't your typical Bills road game. I don't know if we'll ever have. Hopefully, we never have another situation like that. The idea that Buffalo going back for the first time here, how do you think this will impact these players? When I would just think the last time I was in this locker room or on this field, and your mind goes maybe to a dark space, how mentally tough does this team have to be coming up Sunday night just to go in and do their job?
Yeah, it's a great point, because, look, I was on the field when that happened, and I was thinking about just myself walking to that stadium. There's going to be emotion. You're going to feel it. It's going to be, unusual, I think, to say the least. I mean, I'm sure somewhat negative, but the big thing in talking to the guys about this yesterday, and A.J. Epinesa brought up this point, he's like, look, I get to see DeMar every day. I get to see him smile. I get to talk with him. I know he's good. And I know not only is he okay, but, this incident kind of brought the world together in a few ways. And DeMar is going out there and doing good, promoting CPR awareness and all that stuff. So, because of that, I think this team will be well prepared and, almost armed to deal with, whatever wave of emotion washes over them when they come onto the field. It'll happen, but, just looking at number 3, seeing him on the field, even if he's not dressed, we'll certainly, be able to take away any of that negative, problematic stuff. It'll be there, but I don't think it's going to be something that affects this game. These guys will be ready to go, and they'll be encouraged, because of, although what they saw last year was terrible and tragic, it had such a great ending that everybody will be okay on Sunday.
What was that like for you, being out there that night? And did you're filming this, you're looking at this, wondering, I'm sure, should I be doing this? Walk us through like what that was like on January 2nd.
whirlwind is the best word, because it was so much. It was a crush of emotion, because you had the uncertainty and then the fear. I mean, those of us who were on the field, we didn't have an elevated camera view, so you couldn't quite see into the huddle what's going on. But you did see what I assume is Denny Kellington's head, performing CPR, kind of bobbing up and down, and you kind of think, what's he doing? That looks like CPR. Is that CPR? That conversation was had, a couple different times on the sideline. Then when you realize kind of the impact when he leaves in the ambulance, you see the reaction on the sideline, the uncertainty of whether the game would start. I mean, one of the more eerie scenes that I'll remember from that day forever is that after the ambulance left the field, the ball was placed on the ground as if play was going to continue, but there were no players on the field. It was just a ball ready for play, spotted, and nothing else in the field. And it felt wrong. And then on top of all of that, all that human stuff, all that fear and worry and concern and, not knowing what's going on, I'm trying to do a job. I'm trying to report. Like you said, I'm trying to, record images, and then later on I'm trying to, put together live reports and what am I going to say? And what are we going to do? So the professional crush on top of the human crush is something I've never felt before. I hope I never feel it again. And again, it's going to be a memory that I know I'll experience in some way on Sunday night.
Thad, we all saw what the team looked like prior to the Hamlin scare on the field. We saw, of course, what happened with the Bengals and Bills in the postseason. It feels as if Cincinnati is a matchup nightmare for Buffalo. What do you think needs to happen here? What do the Bengals present that pose such a problem for the Bills?
Yeah, one big thing to look out for is that the Bengals have a knack of starting really fast when they succeed. 6 of their last 7 wins, they've scored on each of their first 2 possessions and at least 10 points. You think back to, the 2 games the Bills played with them. Last year in the playoffs, touchdown right away, and then the Bills were chasing the rest of the day. Even in that game with DeMar Hamlin, Cincinnati went right down the field in the first possession, had, I'm pretty sure, a 1st and 10 near midfield in the second possession when the game ended. So the Bills need to be able to survive that. Preferably don't let the Bengals score 10 points on you quick, but at least if you do, hang with them. If we get to 2 possessions and it's 10-7 or 14-10, then I think the Bills are in a pretty good spot. So that's the start. But the matchup problem is just what Cincinnati can bring to you, in the passing game, and the fact that they have 3 receivers that are a matchup pain, and, especially when the Bills only had Christian Benford and Dane Jackson on the outside to deal with that, that was a big disadvantage. Now, Rasul Douglas will be better, but again, it's still advantage Cincinnati with that. And unless you can get to the quarterback, which the Bills couldn't do last year once Von Miller was gone, then it just becomes Joe Burrow in a shooting gallery. So, it's on the front 7 and the front 4 probably mostly to get pressure. It's on the Bills in the coverage game to be able to at least, cause Joe Burrow some problems. Don't give him the first read, make him look around a little bit, and then really the offense has to hang. The Bengals are going to put up some points. They do it to most everybody. This can't be a game like the Bills had against the Giants, against the Patriots, where they have 3 or 10 points going in the fourth quarter. The offense needs to show up again. So it's, Bengals are a great team. You can't beat those teams with 1 or 2 phases doing okay. It's got to be across the board.
Yeah, Thad, last one for me. And if let's go over the scenario here. The Bills figure out a way to get this done Sunday night. Is it back on then? Is the expectation like, okay, this team had their bump in the road here in October. They went into Cincinnati. How would this set up the rest of the season for the Buffalo Bills?
It kind of does feel like the winner is back in kind of game, because you could say the same for Cincinnati. I know they just beat San Francisco, but this is a team that's only 4 weeks removed from losing by 24 to the Titans. So I think both teams look at this game as whoever wins goes right back to the top of the heap in the AFC. The Chiefs will still be on top unless they lose to Miami. But this team, the winner, will be right back there, and the loser will still have questions. The loser will still be likely a discussion about are they good enough? Are they from the struggles we've seen in the last few weeks with either team, are those for real? So I think at least for the short term, it does for the Bills. The thing with the Bills, though, is that, after this Bengals game, like I said, you still got the Chiefs, got another date with the Jets for what that is worth. You got Dallas, you got Philly. So the major tests are only beginning for Buffalo. And if you win this one, yeah, you're back on top for a little while, but you're back on top until you face that next test down the road.
Thad, do you think that you can chalk up the resurgence here of the Bengals simply to Joe Burrow as healthy when he wasn't at the beginning of the season?
most likely, I think T. Higgins being a little bit better and healthier is a factor as well. But, Burrow does look different. First 2 weeks of the year, he's barely moving around. You could see that there was a problem. And then against the Niners, he's running draws and scrambling like it's nothing. So it does feel like the health of the quarterback, and shocker, has made a big difference for the Bengals.
Thad Brown, News 8, what do you got coming up tonight we can check out here?
Rasul Douglas talked to the media today. I'm going to have that up on News 8 in about 20 minutes here. Talking about being in Buffalo, what it was like for him, experiencing the trade. And then the reaction to Linval Joseph at 6, Mitch Morris talked about going against him, what that was like. So, a lot of talk on the new guys today, what they can provide and what the Bills hope to get out of them coming up soon.
Fantastic as always, Thad. Appreciate you giving us some time. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
He's the best, Thad Brown, News 8 Sports, joining us here in the Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester, talking some Bills and Bengals.
Yeah, it's still comes down to number 17 for me in this game. And it's a good point that brought up about how the Bengals start off quick, and you think, oh gosh, that was 14-0 like that.
Yeah.
In the playoff game.
You can't do it. You can't give up an early lead. I mean, you couldn't crawl out of a hole against the Patriots. You spotted them 10 points. It was the Patriots. The Patriots aren't a good team, but you spotted them 10 points, and that was too much. What do you do against a good team if you spot them that early a lead? You're not winning that game. So that's going to be the struggle. And conversely, if you're the Bills and you can get off to that early lead, I like your chances a little bit more. The problem with the Bills is they tend to take their foot off the gas, and that bend but don't break defense comes pretty close to breaking down the stretch, and there's a flair for the dramatic with Sean McDermott coached teams in these tight games against very good teams. Can't wait for Sunday night. We'll have the pregame coverage here on the Fan Rochester starting at 4 o'clock, kickoff just after 8 o'clock. You're home for Buffalo Bills football, and we will have that action for you coming Sunday night.
Yeah, we've got the stories from around the NFL coming up. We have a game tonight. You into this game tonight?
I am.
Yeah, I think I am too.
I am. I like Pittsburgh tonight. -2.5, -3 at some places. I think Pittsburgh can win by over a field goal.
I like when we talk to PJ Glasser, though, because you could bet that. But if you wanted a fun prop bet, what was it, 50-1? No touchdowns by either team tonight. It does have that kind of feel, like Pittsburgh can ugly it up. Rookie quarterback on the other side that looked great last week. Now
Short week.
Yeah.
Sloppy. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could certainly see that. That would be a lot of fun as well. We'll get to that and everything else happening around the NFL here. We'll take a break and come back. Happy hour's right around the corner as well. If you want to get in, pull up a stool at the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for everything.
Practice. Everybody else will practice in some capacity. Those two players will be Baylor Inspector and A.J. Klein. A.J. tweaked his back yesterday, so he will not practice either today. So,
what's the plan for Josh Allen today after he didn't practice yesterday?
He'll be out there and should be in normal practice. We'll see how it goes. So I'm not really sure. Is he going to take every snap? I couldn't tell you right now at this point. Let's see how it goes.
You are expecting to do like team drills?
Yes. Yeah.
Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott.
When was the last time you slept? Honestly, does he get 3 hours a night? I mean, it's
a grind, man. I don't know how they do it. I don't want that job. But there you have your injury updates from practice today. Pre-practice press conference there with Bills head coach Sean McDermott. The Bills signing a veteran defensive tackle in Linval Joseph today, Gino. 35 years old. He started 8 games last season for the Eagles, and he signed with the Eagles right around this time last year, right around November. He was on the field for a rotation, 38% of the snaps in the games that he played, 20 total tackles, a half sack in the regular season, a tackle and a fumble recovery in the postseason. So he's a veteran guy that's been in the league. He helped the Giants. He's won a Super Bowl. He helped the Giants beat the Patriots in his second season. He played in 6 seasons for the Vikings, joined the Chargers during the pandemic in 2020 for 2 seasons. And with that move, the Bills also moving Kaiir Elam to IR with his ankle injury. He'll miss at least the next 4 games.
Yeah, so Joseph comes in and takes up pretty much all your cap room that you had left, but this is a move that the Bills are looking at. That can you get at Oliver a little more freed up there? Can he take on some of these double teams? Lyndall Joseph at 6'4", 329.
It's a big guy.
Yeah, so I think it's a move, but anything at this point, you got to be cautious. But I'm okay with somebody half season. What does he have kind of left in the tank there? Week 9 beginning tonight. Steelers hosting the Titans on Prime. It'll be Will Levis getting his first road start, first prime time start, and look, he looked good last week. There's no doubt about it. The Steelers favored by 3, even though their play has been inconsistent, to put it mildly.
Typical Steelers.
Yeah, Steeler quarterback Kenny Pickett will start despite battling a rib injury. He was a full participant in the practice yesterday.
So we talked yesterday with PJ Glasser from BetQL sent it in, and he said, hey, if you got a little pizza money, just throw it on this game for no touchdowns in this game. Neither team to score a touchdown. It could be that kind of ugly game where it's just a field goal fest and it comes down to the last kick, where neither team is competent enough to get it in the end zone. The Pittsburgh defense is going to pose some challenges for Will Levis tonight.
Yeah, certainly this is what we're going to be watching tonight. Giants tight end Darren Waller and quarterback Tyrod Taylor could be placed on IR, and both miss the Giants Week 9 matchup against the Raiders. Waller has a hamstring pull. He came out early in that game, didn't come back, and then you saw Taylor with a rib injury, sent him to the hospital where he was kept overnight. Daniel Jones will make his return due to a neck injury. Tommy DeVito once again will serve as the backup. Also, this is just coming over for Ian Rappaport, Giants' new kicker, as Graham Gano will have knee surgery. He's going to likely land on IR, and that means that good old Randy Bullock will be the new kicker.
God, he's still floating around.
He sucks.
He's the worst.
He sucks. I mean, I guess I can appreciate any pro athlete that has a beer gut.
I just remember the first time I saw him kicking for the Texans. I want to say he was a rookie, and even then, I'm like, "Who's this guy? He doesn't look like a."
How
kicker.
does he keep getting gigs? Like Bullock with the Bengals, the Titans missing the kick last year.
Yeah.
I guess the Giants look. We don't want to win games. Who cares?
Giants are in some sort of way. Happy hour is next in the sports bar. We've got time for your calls if you want to pull up a stool on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. It's 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. More from today's Bills practice as we get ready for Bills-Bengals Sunday night, a game you'll be able to hear on the Fan Rochester. Lots to get to from last night as well, with the World Series champion crowned, a Sabres win, and Amerks loss. All of that and more coming up in a round of shots. Stand by. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills adding depth to their defensive line today. Linval Joseph came in as a New York Giant, spent last year in Philadelphia. He's 35, takes up essentially the rest of the cap space. The Bills signing him to a 1-year, $3.72 million deal. Sean McDermott on the new signing.
Veteran, experienced player that's, from the reports we've gotten, high character, leader. He's played a lot of football and certainly a big man, and the line of scrimmage is important.
From practice today, Josh Allen was a full participant. Bills and Bengals, our pregame coverage will begin at 4 o'clock this coming Sunday. Week 9 begins tonight with the Titans and Steelers. Amerks hosting Utica tomorrow night. Sabres getting a win over Philadelphia. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bengals and the Bills are the two best teams in the AFC, and they face off Sunday Night Football. Who should be the favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Cincinnati. I think the Bengals, they're back. I mean, the Bengals kind of own the Bills. I feel like it's a bad matchup for the Bills. I think that the Bengals probably win this one fairly easily.
Mike Danger.
I give them a chance against Cincinnati, and I think they could beat Cincinnati.
Gene Battaglia.
This is the team, for whatever reason, we can't get past here.
Linval Joseph. Break down the matchup tonight, Titans and Steelers.
He struck him out looking. It's over. It's over. The Rangers have won the World Series.
World Series champions.
That's what's in. Texas also set a new record going 11-0 on the road in the postseason. Corey Seager, your MVP.
So now there are 5 current teams without a world title.
Brandon Biro, welcome back. 2 goals on the night. Syracuse coming away with a 7-2 win over the Amerks.
Well, there was only one Bobby Knight. He should be remembered for the great coaching he did. One of the greatest ever of all time.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you stopping by and listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. A special tip of the cap to anybody listening along where we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we appreciate you helping us grow our community on YouTube and Twitch as well, where we're streaming live at The Fan Rochester. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Mike Danger. That is Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, and the Bills making another move. 3 moves this week. Who would have saw that? First, it was Leonard Fournette to the practice squad. Leonard Fournette getting acclimated to the Buffalo weather here today, saying that it's as cold as, what was it?
Cold as a penguin's ass.
Yeah. I can't argue that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, none of these moves, each move alone is like, okay. None of them are like earth-shattering, holy hell, I can't believe they went out and did that. But they had to do something.
Yeah,
we all recognize that.
Right. When we were joined by Thad Brown, I'm like, wait a second. Rasul Douglas, how did the Bills get this guy for only a pick swap? Well, Thad kind of saying, hey, slow down here. Like, he wasn't a starter in Green Bay. They had 2 first-round picks, but honestly, Danger, he's somebody who I would think can be corner 2 on this team. And if he balls out, he'll be corner 2 on this team next year. So to me, that is an upgrade. Leonard Fournette, potentially an upgrade. And what about the defensive tackle position? We really haven't talked about this because there's been other problems here with the Buffalo Bills, but losing Daquan Jones was a massive loss for this Buffalo Bills.
He was playing really, really well.
He was playing at a Pro Bowl level, and you're hoping that pec injury, he can be okay. I've seen him, by the way. Like, he's been in the tunnel. He's been around. So he hasn't been one of these guys, hey, I'm hurt, I'm not going to be around. No, he's been around, and that's good, which lends you to think that he's going to do everything he can to get ready come playoff time. But in the interim, I'm sorry, there's a reason why Poona Ford was sitting out there in free agency, or that Washington didn't want Tim Settle back. Now you could say the same thing. Well, Gene, why was so and so Linval Joseph sitting out there for so long? Well, he did this last year, and it worked out pretty well for Philadelphia, did it not? He was a good situational guy, defensive tackle, and that's exactly what the Eagles did this time last year. He came in and joined Philadelphia on November 16th. So for a player getting up there in age, you don't need to sign with a team in the month of May here. Like, why not play a half a season?
Doesn't want to be at training camp or be a part of any of that, and I don't think the Bills are going to ask him to do anything more than what he did last season down the stretch for the Eagles. He was on the field for 38% of the snaps in games that he was playing. 20 tackles total, a half sack in the regular season, and a tackle with the fumble recovery in the postseason for Philadelphia. So, clearly a player whose best years are behind him, but you're hoping can contribute to the Bills' efforts in stopping the run. A big man in the middle that you need to be a little bit more than what you got out of Poona Ford and Tim Settle here in this interim period while you're trying to figure out how you're going to replace Daquan Jones.
Yeah, former second-round pick of the Giants, St. Croix. How many guys are from the Virgin Islands there, basically? But, he didn't like the way kids were picking on him, so he committed himself to the weight room right when his body was coming into shape as a teenager, and then look out, 6'4", 329, his listed weight.
So that's an interesting signing today by the Buffalo Bills, and we may see him, and we may see Rasul Douglas as soon as Sunday night against Cincinnati in some way, shape, or form. Somebody we know we won't see, and we haven't seen a lot of this year because now he's been placed on injured reserve, and he'll miss at least the next 4 weeks. That's Bills corner Kaiir Elam. That's the corresponding move you make to bring in Joseph.
Yeah, who, as you pointed out, was not on the field last week, and I don't know if his ankle was bothering him in training camp or week one he was inactive. I don't remember.
Said he was on the injury report. I don't remember the injury report that had Kaiir Elam, and maybe it was from a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This has been bothering him. Sean McDermott, sure sounds a little sketchy when talking about Kaiir Elam going to injured reserve. See if you hear what we hear.
Well, I mean, he's got the ankle going on, and beyond that, there's nothing you can do, and we'll assess it when his ankle's better and see where it takes us.
Surgery need for that? Is that just kind of recovery?
Yeah, I don't know the kind of the polish on that at this point. The latest information.
When did he suffer that injury in the ankle?
And I think, going back, I think it happened several weeks ago. And so it's just been kind of an ongoing thing here for several weeks.
He was on the injury report week 7.
Okay.
Following Jacksonville.
Okay.
Or in London. So, okay.
But not last week?
No, he was on there last week too and was inactive. So
Yeah, I don't know.
He was okay. Yes, and he was a full participant every day of practice. And didn't have a game injury he didn't have an injury status at all last week, and he was limited, but he didn't have a injury status for the next game. So how do you go from you're okay to play to injured reserve? There's a gray area here, Danger, and I don't think the NFL is really going to kind of investigate it. But are you fine with the Bills kind of maybe using a loophole here, perhaps?
I mean, I would imagine if they're doing it, every other team in the NFL is probably doing likewise. If Kaiir Elam's ankle is bothering him and you need to put him on IR so he can get rest over 4 weeks, I would say that's probably. I mean, if you were to ask me, who do you think is more injured right now, Kaiir Elam or Josh Allen? If all things were equal, I'd say Josh Allen's probably feeling it a little bit more than Kaiir Elam, but I don't know the severity of that ankle injury, so I'm just throwing that out there. I might be in the minority, but I think the Bills are working Kaiir Elam slowly, that they're not quite, that they might feel like the clock isn't ticking as fast as we do. He's a first-round draft pick. He's got some talent. He's got some ability, but he just hasn't figured it out. This year has been a rough one for him.
It's a step back. Clearly, this is a step back.
But they're not throwing in the towel on him. I think this is almost like, hey, kid, go to the corner for a few weeks, get sorted. When you come back, let's reassess. Let's see where we're
at. Like, he's an asset. And the idea, like, what were you going to get for him at the trade deadline? I mean, honestly, like, you were not trading for a 7th-round pick. You're not doing it for a pick swap. Why? Like, you would keep him around. For one, for the hope that you can straighten it out, and that'll be a camp storyline next year. And also, let's let the general manager save face here a little bit and his staff, okay? Because that, if you parted ways, not even a full 2 seasons in.
Yeah, I have a feeling that by this time next year, roll the tape, by this time next year, Kaiir Elam is somebody we're not talking about because he's doing his job. And that will be that.
I'm not so sure he gets out of Fisher next year or makes the team next year. Well, he'll come back. He'll be a body, but you have to bring in more competition at that position.
That would be a pretty massive admission of failure by Brandon Beane to cut Kyrie Elam before his third year, a first-round pick. I don't know. I feel like I get the sense that they still believe in him, that they still want to give him that opportunity and will work with him. It's probably something that we don't see, we don't hear, we don't know. We don't know the attitude of Kyrie Elam. We don't know how he presents himself in team meetings or when he's off the field with the coaches or any of that stuff, right? He just might not be a guy that they like. They might just be like, we don't like this guy. We wish we liked him, but we just don't. He just doesn't fit. Man, I don't know. Yeah. It could be any of those things, but it was
a rough game over in London. That was the last time we saw him.
We do know we won't see him for the next 4 weeks, and it would probably have been unlikely that we would have seen him for the next 4 weeks, even if he was not on IR. But Kyrie Elam going to injured reserve for the next 4, with Linval Joseph coming in, the new addition today, defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills. 866-4FAN if you want to join us. It's 585-866-4326. We get you covered. So, Gino, yesterday you were watching the Sabres. I was checking out the World Series.
I got over in time to check out what I needed to in the World Series. Missed scoreless innings. Yeah, runs, whatever.
It was, as far as elimination games go in the World Series, there was some drama there. I mean, you got the sense as the game kept going, you get into the 5th inning, and the Diamondbacks keep getting opportunities and keep stranding runners on base, and Eovaldi keeps getting out of these jams, that the longer this game goes like this, it's just a matter of time before Texas pops. And of course, late in the game, Texas pops. They get the 5-0 win. They win the series in 5 games over the Arizona Diamondbacks for their first World Series title. Bruce Bochy's 4th World Series title. He had 3 with the Giants. This is first with the Texas Rangers. So celebration happening in Texas as the Rangers World Series win draws to a conclusion the 2023 Major League Baseball season.
Yeah, good for the Texas Rangers, but
good for Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, how about that? Jacob deGrom? Like, now I actually feel bad for the guy.
Right.
Like, is there a more faceless organization, Texas Rangers? Like, there's no fans.
They met the owner when they introduced the owner. I'm like, that's the owner of the Rangers? No idea.
No,
good for him.
Yeah, looks like you can join us anytime here in the Sports Bar. This is our number. You can call it. It's 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Luke in Rochester wants to talk some Bills. Hey, Luke.
Hello. Guys, I think you guys are too harsh. I don't think that Elam played all that bad in that Jacksonville game. I know that everyone's saying that, but my actual observance of it, he got beat one time where he was truly in man-to-man by Ridley at a critical point in the 4th quarter. It was a great 3rd down catch, but Ridley ran an obscure route similar to Stevie Johnson used to. It was great on Ridley's part. All the other time, and there weren't that many, maybe 2 or 3 other times that he was beat, he was in that stupid zone that McDermott favors. So
I hear what you're saying, Luke, but you call McDermott's defense that stupid zone. Like it or not, that's the defense Kyrie Elam has to learn to play in, and if he can't play in that defense, then he will not be on the field.
Sometimes I'd say this too, Luke, like in the stupid zone, it's kind of hard for us, you or me or anybody else, to kind of determine, all right, who exactly missed the assignment there. Something's off here, and we're just trying to figure that out. And I guess I'm going to turn around, Luke. What is off here? Because how does somebody who drafted as a first-round pick, and you think he's in this competition, and then all of a sudden he's inactive week 1? Like, something's off. Something's been off here since the beginning here with Kyrie Elam. We're just trying to figure it out here.
I know what it is. McDermott and trying to bestow accolades on Dane Jackson says Jackson keeps everything in front of him. Knows his limitations. I guess he doesn't like it that Elam wants to actually play more aggressive. I don't know. But,
what we know of Elam is this, and we've known this about him from the first moment we laid eyes on him at St. John Fisher his rookie year. He's handsy. And he could be a liability in terms of penalties and pass interference and holding. My first view of Kyer Elam at training camp, he was wearing the oven mitts. Remember?
Yeah.
In practice, they had the mitts on him so that he couldn't use his hands. They force him to not use his hands, and I don't know that they've broken him of that as of yet. And also, furthermore, Luke, if you look at some of the Pro Football Focus numbers on Kyer Elam last year and even this year, his grades are actually better in zone than they are in man. I can't explain it. I'm not really sure what it is that they're seeing or not seeing. We're being harsh on Kyer Elam. I'm not being harsh on him. I think he's still going to be a part of this team's plans long term, but it clearly is not the case this year because Kyer Elam has not seen the field very often, and he won't be seeing the field for the next 4 weeks with this injury.
Luke, thank you. I like calls like that. People that'll say, hey, I got a different angle. You guys are a little off. Yeah, that's what sports talk is supposed to be about. Then we have this angle here from Jim texting me. Kyer Elam sucks, plain and simple. Thank you, Jim.
He's a bust. He's a bum. Get rid of him. Get rid of him while you still can.
You're not going to see him again this year, right? To IR you go,
but you can't say that because you don't know about injuries, and you if you're pressed into a situation.
Oh boy!
If you're pressed into a situation where you have to use him later this season, are you going to get a different Kyer Elam? Maybe a healthy Kyer Elam? Let's see. I'm not dismissing him just yet, even though it appears like the coaches have dismissed him. He can't get a jersey on game day.
It's also the Trey White injury, how it has kind of an effect. You wouldn't even be thinking about any of this because he would be corner 4. There'd be no pressure. It would have been Benford and maybe a little Dane Jackson opposite Trey White. This is the cascading effect of injury here.
That's right. And those injuries will continue to happen through the course of the season, unfortunately. So we'll monitor that through the course of the season here with Kyer Elam for the next 4 weeks on IR. And you've got a new defensive tackle in Linval Joseph, who we expect to see some of on Sunday night. And I think the same could be said for Rasul Douglas. The expectations for these new players. Sean McDermott earlier today.
Well, I think first the biggest thing is, are they healthy and have that capacity to play a game, and they're both in kind of different situations. And then beyond that is adapting to the system and the terminology. I mean, they're both experienced players, so they've probably done systematically everything that we do because they've been to multiple teams. It's just more the terminology.
Okay. Let's get going here. Bills and Bengals, Sunday, 4 o'clock pregame coverage here on the Fan. We were joined earlier by Thad Brown, and I thought he brought up a good point. Like, this is a game where you see the Bengals, with what they did last week, last time they played the Buffalo Bills in the postseason. They got up to a 14-0 lead. This is what the Bengals do. They want you playing from behind. And this is the one team danger. All right, can I go back on something?
You're moving the goalpost?
Well, I hate when McDermott does this. Should the Buffalo Bills be playing complimentary football? You only say that when you're the underdog. Let's be clear on that. You only say that when you're facing a tough offense.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Look, you said it. I agree. This comes down to whether or not 17 can make the right decision. Can he make the right decision? Can he look the way he looked early in the Tampa game? And, Tampa's defense wasn't great, but Josh Allen was able to find and exploit the weaknesses and spread the ball, and he was a dual threat. He kept that defense on their heels, and when we've seen him do that through the course of his career, chances are the Bills are going to win. It's the turnovers. It's the points off the turnovers. It's the early holes that kill the Buffalo Bills. And the Bengals have done to teams what teams have done to the Bills in the instances where the Bills have lost. It's the early lead that you gave up to the New England Patriots. It's the 4 turnovers you had against the Jets. You can't have those kind of mistakes, and if you're going to stay competitive against a good team like the Cincinnati Bengals.
A little bit of breaking news from the world of hockey here at Danger.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Sabres have just called up Lucas Rušek.
Okay.
So, which is interesting because Kulik is second in the American Hockey League in goals right now with 7. Lucas, this is not his going to be his debut. He made it up last year.
Yeah. Big night for Brandon Byro, which we love to see, getting 2 goals last night in the Sabres' win over the Flyers, his first NHL goal, and then he followed it up with an empty netter. So Brandon Byro making an impact. That game was sloppy. They were fortunate to get the win on that one, boy. What did they have, 15 shots?
Okay, can I be Mr. Positive?
Sure.
It was an ugly game, but you still won.
That's right.
So, like those games before, pack it in, you're losing 5-2.
And you had a good performance from UPL, which I think was a big part of it.
Wow. How about this? The UPL curve. Could he actually be the guy? Like, we were saying this all along. He should have stayed in Rochester longer. He didn't get the playoff experience.
I'll say something. Why do you need a guy between the pipes? Why not have 2? I mean, if you look at teams that win Stanley Cups now, it's not one goalie. It's not a franchise goalie. It's a guy who comes in and gets hot, and you ride that wave. And if UPL is hot right now while Devin Levi continues to recover from his injury, then keep riding the hot hand.
Yeah, I would go right back to UPL. Same team. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because he's playing well. And he got him one last night. Boy, that was not a great performance, and the Sabres get out of Philadelphia with the win. Not so fortunate for the Amherst at home last night. Disappointing performance, 7-2, the final against Syracuse.
Yeah, Utica coming in tomorrow night.
Yeah, another tough North Division opponent for the Rochester Americans at Blue Cross Arena. We'll have that action for you here on the Fan Rochester tomorrow night, starting at 7. Speaking of tomorrow, more hockey talk with John Martis. Tell me, we've talked to John before. Yeah. Why am I botching his name?
Yeah, Matisse. John Matisse.
John Matisse.
I want to say you weren't there, but he's really knowledgeable. So I think it's a good time to talk to, because I think hockey kind of had this moment of reckoning with the death of Adam Johnson. So we're going to talk to John Matisse here, and we'll ask him for his opinion here. Okay, the Sabres are at 500. Is this the same old Sabres? I mean, get somebody from the outside who's not going to...
I really think that if you're in the NHL, come Thanksgiving, if your team is above 500 or you find yourself somewhere in a playoff position, that you're in such a better position to close out the season in that playoff position than if you're a team that starts off in the hole. We've seen it happen in the NHL, and you can gain ground quickly after a slow start and end up in the postseason. But the odds are in your favor if by the time you get to Thanksgiving, you find yourself above 500 or you find yourself in one of those playoff positions.
Yeah, I always look at the first. I always and I think back to St. Louis. They were the worst team in the league at the end of the year, and then all of a sudden, they won a Stanley Cup. Mike in Sodas Bay, what's going on, Mike?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, guys. Not going to miss my last chance to talk baseball.
Good.
Before the season, I guess, is done. I love the fact the topic is Bochy, where he rates in great managers. The fact that he's taken 3 teams to pennants, and he's won 4 series with 2 different teams, and I just think he's done an amazing job because he's been in markets that aren't normally recognized here on the East Coast. He hasn't got the attention he deserves.
Totally. And Mike, I mean, when you look at some of these numbers, it's hard to you look at the resume and you're like, how is he not considered one of the best managers of all time, if not the best? 11-0 on the road in this postseason. That's a mark that I don't know if anybody's beating that. That's ridiculous. And then to have won 15 of 16 playoff series, that's impressive.
Mike, I also added this. This Texas team really, I thought in July, had no pitching. So he's got to get some of the credit here. Evaldi, all of a sudden, all that promise that Yankee fans had and Sox fans had and everybody else, Evaldi and everybody else, and somehow that bullpen was substandard. It didn't even matter. He knew what button to push.
Right, that's the modern baseball axiom: is the best bullpen wins, and the worst bullpen won.
Well, Mike, it was a fun season for sure, and the Rangers cap it off with their first World Series title, and now we get to look ahead to see who's going to land Shohei. Free agency has begun.
That'll be a big thing. One more for this year: Texas Rangers. who's the greatest Texas Ranger of all time? I try to do that with all teams. And that one's kind of a stumper. Who's the greatest Ranger of all time?
It's Nolan Ryan for me.
Yeah, and that was his 4th club, and he was at the end of his career.
Do you go?
Juan Gonzalez?
A-Rod?
Not A-Rod.
Juan Gonzalez?
Pudge?
How about
Jeff Burrows?
Rafael Palmeiro?
Oh, my.
It's Nolan Ryan for me. I mean, I just think Nolan Ryan is kind of synonymous with that club, and I don't know. I mean, it feels like he kind of put them on the map.
What about Pudge Rodriguez?
That's it. I think so. I would go with Pudge.
Yeah.
Ryan's the one I first think of.
Good stuff, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Listen.
Love you guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening, Mike. Good call.
Remind me when we talk to PJ next Wednesday. When we talk about the Rangers, which we're having a debate. Who's the best Ranger of all time? Could it be Nolan Ryan?
Wait a second. He played for the Orioles too. You might know him, and he was also
a Cub for a part of his career.
And he was like, "I will not do steroids."
Right. Why is his last name escaping me, PJ? It's Rafael. Rafael what? Palmeiro. All right, let's get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Something funny happened a couple things happened that were funny. We will play the audio that you want to hear following last night's win. And
God,
it was better than we could have imagined.
It exceeded my expectations. I mean, if I'm being nitpicky, the boos seemed a little light just because I think a lot of the fans ducked out of the stadium, and the Ranger fans that were still there, they were as loud as they could be. But it was Manfred getting like screechy with his voice.
It's gold. I love it. Boy, could the other teams in the Big Ten force out, or punish Michigan here? That's what they're trying to do. We'll go over the latest in the Michigan cheating scandal here, and the complicated legacy of Bob Knight. We'll dive into that.
Yeah, spent some time talking about that to open our show, and we'll get to that and more next with a round of shots. You can join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326, The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia, 95.7 FM, and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.
Sports Update.
Bills adding some depth on the defensive line. Linval Joseph, a defensive tackle, came in to the league with the Giants as a second-round pick. He's 35 years old, spent half of last season with Philadelphia, the deal taking up the rest of the cap space essentially here for the Bills. 1 year, $3.7 million. Meanwhile, Sean McDermott has no concerns about quarterback Josh Allen.
If he's out there, he's playing. Certainly we're aware of his situation, but feel confident from what the medical team has shared with me that he should be ready to go.
Allen was a full participant at practice today. Bills and Bengals, our pregame coverage Sunday begins at 4 o'clock here on the Fan Rochester. Week 9 of the NFL season begins tonight. It's the Titans and Steelers from Pittsburgh. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, the Fan Rochester.
If you want pure, unfiltered, unadulterated sports, you've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
63 years is a long time to wait, but the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. It's my distinct pleasure to present the Commissioner's Trophy to Ray Davis, Neil Liedman, and Chris Young.
That's Commissioner Peter Brady last night, dishing off the trophy to the Texas Rangers. I think that was better than I had hoped for.
Yeah, the only thing that could have been better would be more boos in the background to really kind of let it be known.
There were boos, but it felt like the voice cracking was almost as a reaction to the boos. Like, how can you boo me? I don't understand. I'm the commissioner of Major League Baseball. Now, a friend of mine said that the theory he's working on, or what he heard, was that they actually muted the announcement that the commissioner. We all heard the announcement on TV, but they muted the announcement in the stadium that the commissioner was handing out the trophy, as if the fans don't know who the guy is handing out the commissioner's trophy.
Yeah, you look up at the scoreboard, and there he is, a picture of him.
And what you're going to do is you're going to boo, and you're going to boo unmercifully.
Yeah, the Texas Rangers, can we say that was the greatest postseason in history from the standpoint of just on the road? Of course. Yeah, they were the first team. Yeah, 11-0 on the road during the postseason. They become just the third team in baseball history to win the World Series within 2 seasons of losing 100 games. The other teams, 1969 Mets and the 1914 Boston Braves.
Oh, just quickly, I couldn't help but notice they flashed up the logo of the 1914 Boston Braves. Was anybody wildly offended by that? Because I would think that they would come up with a different, the old Boston Braves logo looks kind of similar to what Washington had to walk away from.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I was not familiar.
I mean,
okay, I don't know what the 1940.
We don't even refer to Canandaigua Academy's nickname anymore because we don't want, we want to make sure
I'm at work, so I'm not going to Google it, but I'll take your word for it. Like, I don't want to.
Just a side note there. Yeah. Couldn't help but notice.
Yeah, first title for the Rangers in the Metroplex since the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. And the Cowboys, it's been a few decades now. Yeah.
No, look, I was kind of happy for those guys. I mean, they looked like a team that really was. They were tight. They were galvanized. I thought Uvalde was an absolute stud this postseason. Looked great. I mean, the longer that game went, the more I'm like, this is going to go Texas's way. They're stranding too many runners. Uvalde's getting hit all over the place, and he's getting out of these jams. It was just a matter of time before that offense woke up.
Arizona security, by the way, guarding the pool out there so that no Rangers could go jump in the pool.
Boo.
Exactly. Let them have
terrible.
Some fun.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, first time this season the Amerks lost at home. Wasn't close last night, 7-2. Devin Cooley got pulled in the third before Michael Hauser came in and mopped up in the final 12 minutes. Yuri Kulik now has 7 goals in the season, good for second in the AHL, but he does not get the call up today. Lucas Rushek going up to the Sabres. Amerks back home tomorrow night against Utica. This is how you know it's going to be a better year for the Sabres. They were bad last night from execution standpoint, yet they still won. They were outshot, but they come away with the 2 points on the road, 5-2. Brandon Byro scoring 2 in his NHL debut, first in the blue paint.
It's pretty cool. Obviously, it's been a long road to get here, so to finally get one after a long time. I haven't played a game in almost 2 years, so it's definitely been a grind to get here and just a little weight off the shoulders. Tomer made a great play. I kind of saw him shoulder check and knew he was going to give it to me. We made a little eye contact out there, so I just tried to find a little bit of a soft spot in front of the net, and I think the puck might have hit their goalie stick and kind of popped to the weak side, and I was able to be first on
I
it.
love what he just said there, because if you play hockey, you know exactly what he's talking. We made a little eye contact there. When you make that eye contact and you know your guy sees you see him, you're open, it's just about finishing.
It was kind of an ugly goal, but that's what you want.
Yeah.
Just go to the net there, and good things can happen. He becomes just the fourth Sabre to score 2 goals in their first game. Maxim Afinogenov, Dave Andrechuk, and Ken Sutton, the others. Same 2 teams tomorrow night in Buffalo. Bobby Knight leaves behind a complicated legacy. I think that's fair to say. On the court, 902 games he won with Army, Indiana, and Texas Tech. He won 3 national championships at Indiana, including an undefeated season in 1976. That has not happened since in the sport, but Knight fired by that same Indiana school. He was also arrested in Puerto Rico for punching a police officer. He also made a terrible remark about rape to Connie Chung. Bobby Knight was 83.
We started the show by talking a little bit about our memories of Bobby Knight, and I just feel like, his passing is another part of my childhood that's kind of slowly died off. I remember hearing about the antics, and I remember seeing about the antics, but I think I was maybe a little bit too young to really recognize how impactful and hurtful some of the things he might have done through the course of his career were. And what makes me sad for Bobby Knight is that his legacy to me is defined more by those antics than they are by the wins or the men that he helped sculpt through that program to become successes in their own way. I know that he was unorthodox and he was offensive and did a lot of things that would not fly in today's world. But I'm sad for his legacy. That I'm thinking
Don't
about.
Don't be sad. This is what he did, though. Right.
Right.
This is what. Yeah. So
well, I mean, I guess I would love to be able to say here that he was at the time the greatest college basketball coach of all time, and just leave it at that. But we spend more time talking about the throwing the chair and the choking the player.
He said it himself. This is a clip that's making its way around. Somebody asked him, the day you die, what do people want to remember you as? Well, hang me upside down and kiss my ass. Like okay, well, was.
I'm not going to go that far. I guess that we lost an icon. I mean, if anything you could say in college basketball, he was iconic. And I wasn't surprised by the news or gutted by the news or anything like that. My immediate thought was more about the antics than it was about the success.
Yeah, and I just wonder someday with Jim Boeheim, are we having a similar? I don't think we're having to that degree, but the Boeheim legacy. Hey, he won a lot of games. Wait, there were some penalties along the way. Ooh, the Bernie Fine story happened under his watch. This wasn't the cleanest of programs at Syracuse.
No, and he's got some blood on his hands, right? I mean, he's walking away from the program at a time where I think everybody just tired of the act. And nothing as extreme as what you saw from Knight and choking players and bringing out a bullwhip to practice. But still, not great.
No. Zoom call Wednesday with Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti.
Hey!
And the head football coaches of the conference. And guess what this was about?
Hey, it's me, Tony Petitti. I'm the head of the Big Ten, and here's what I want. If we're going to do a Zoom call, let's meet in person next time. Get some ziti from the Olive Garden or get some sauce in here, and let's go.
Go meet you at Rockies down there.
Yeah, Tony Petitti here.
The call lasted 90 minutes. What is the funny part? Jim Harbaugh was at the beginning, spoke his piece. He got off. I don't know if he was asked to leave, but he just kind of left. That's when things got emotional with the other coaches.
Coach, can you leave the call so we can talk about you behind your back? Thank you very much.
Coaches used words such as tainted, fraudulent, unprecedented on the call to describe the signal stealing scheme.
Shocking.
Right now, can they actually do anything? Probably not here. So that's to be noted. And for one more time, Danger, because it is the end of the baseball season, and we did have the commissioner. Can we please have Rob Manfred closing out the season?
63 years is a long time to wait, but the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. It's my distinct pleasure to present the Commissioner's Trophy to Ray Davis, Neil Liebman, and Chris Young.
God Get that man a Ricola.
He sounds like the pimply kid on The Simpsons.
Yes. Like, congratulations to the Texas Rangers on winning the World Series, and congratulations to me on hitting puberty. What was that? I loved it. I stayed up just for the booze. I mean, I knew the Rangers were going to win at a certain point. You're like, okay, yeah. I could pack it. I'm like, I'm not packing this in. I got to see the celebration, and I got to see what happens when Manfred gets on stage.
Yeah, because hockey's taking the fun away. It's like they kind of bull rush Gary Bettman. It's like, oh, there he is handing the cup, and you don't have that chance. Bettman doesn't address the crowd.
That's
smart. Yeah. They kind of realize this is not good to just make this a tradition, but I'm totally fine. This becomes our tradition in baseball. Let's boo Rob Manfred.
It's just such a bad look. Like if you're Rob Manfred, you have to be. I think he is self-aware enough to know you're going to get booed. You can go up there and let the TV crew hand it over. We're here with Commissioner Rob Manfred, and we're here. And then instead of handing the mic to Manfred, or in the case of the NFL to Goodell, or I think Bettman gets it by not addressing the crowd. You're not opening yourself up to a chorus of boos that I think just makes you look dumb. Well, congratulations to the Rangers. And with that, the baseball season comes to an end, and, well, that means we know what's ahead of us. Yeah.
No. It means we have the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes.
Okay.
Except for the Padres, who
can't make payroll.
No.
We have last call on the way next. I know we have some calls standing by already. You can get in at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. We'll try to get to you here before we close up shop. Tell you about who's stopping by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon on The Fan Rochester. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Get ready to start the NFL week off right, because right now all customers get a no-sweat same-game parlay for tonight's Thursday night football game. Just place a 3-leg same-game parlay on tonight's game between the Titans and the Steelers, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. NFL same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your own or choose from one of the popular same-game parlays pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike so you don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for
Rochester.
Last call on the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. What do you got over there, Gino?
I got some audio. This is from the Bengals locker room this afternoon. This is Tyler Boyd talking about, I'll let Tyler explain it here.
When we won in the snow, a couple of their players were saying if it wasn't snowing, that they would have beat us. So we're here now.
Apparently, Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase claiming that Bills players won in the playoffs because of the conditions. That's what they were saying, that it's something crazy to say. Jamar Chase today. Nobody knows any Bills player that said that post-game whatsoever, that the Bills lost that game because of the conditions.
Well, I would think that it'd be the opposite, right? Like the Bills want the conditions, like it's an advantage because they're used to playing in those conditions. That's what we kind of pride ourselves on, right?
Yeah, it's almost like how Michael Jordan would just, make up things in his head here just to find an edge here. It seems like that's kind of what's happening in the Bengal locker room today, coming up with this storyline that the Bills said it was the weather or the reason why the Bengals won last time.
I mean, the reason why the Bengals won last time is they were the better team. They just beat the Bills thoroughly. And
they outcoached the Bills, too.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, Lou Anarumo is the name that gives me the shivers. It makes me nervous for Sunday night because that guy's defense has been an issue for the Buffalo Bills. And man, if they fool Josh Allen and bad Josh pokes his head out and there's an early turnover, or that turnover leads to points, the Bengals are a good enough team where you're not going to be able to crawl out from that hole as easily as you tried to do it against a team like the Patriots, as an example. So we'll wait and see, and it'll be Sunday night. You can hear the action here on the Fan Rochester. Our pregame coverage gets underway at 4 o'clock. It is last call at 866-4326. Do we still have Tony waiting on hold?
No, he hung up.
Oh, Tony. I thought we had a Tony standing by.
But, yeah, I mean, no, he's not from your neighborhood, though.
Well, I could take a guess. He probably is in the vicinity, maybe not exactly in the neighborhood. Tomorrow, another great show lined up for you. John Matisse?
I think that. We'll confirm that. The Scorer up in Canada. He's their national writer. So it's kind of cool to have an insider like this on the show tomorrow, as we'll get his thoughts on not just the Sabres, but what has been kind of an awful week for the sport of hockey here, and where we kind of go in terms of player safety. Also joining us tomorrow, maybe he'll be on tonight. It's always kind of the roulette wheel of, okay, who is following the sports bar? Tonight, it's Hot Take Kick It. We have no idea. But I can tell you tomorrow, it'll be Bart Winkler on our show, 425, as I think it's good to bring him on the show just to figure out a little bit more about this player the Bills got in that trade from Green Bay. Also get Bart's thoughts here on the NFL at large. And we can also ask him, too, are we ready to close the book here on Jordan Love? Because it seems like time's running out there.
I wonder if that's a motivational tactic there by Brian Gutekunst yesterday, basically saying that they're going to assess everything and that nothing is guaranteed. Like, you wanted more out of Jordan Love this year, and you're just not getting it. No coaching being discussed here, like no coaching changes. It's not LaFleur's problem. It's Jordan Love. It's solely a Jordan Love problem.
Or maybe everybody out after this year.
Well, we'll see. But I'm sure Bart has some thoughts on that as well. Being in Milwaukee, there in the heart of Packers country, Bart Winkler from CBS Sports Radio joins us tomorrow afternoon on the show, right around 4:25. And who knows, maybe Bart is up next here on the Fan Rochester. If you missed Thad Brown from News 8 Sports or Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy Sports, you can get those conversations wherever you get your shows. Search out the Sports Bar in the free-to-download Odyssey app or Apple Podcasts. You'll get all of our guest appearances and all of our shows listed for you right there. And don't forget about our video stream and help us grow our community on YouTube and Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you checking out the Sports Bar. More next on The Fan.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.